The story begins with the main character reflecting on his past life, questioning where he went wrong in life and when he started yearning for revenge. Is it when he let that woman lead him astray after she promised to marry him? Was it when he fought his first battle and won? Or when that woman made him drink poison? Under the guise of a drug that satisfies every desire, the main character vividly remembers that day. A party was held in his honor after he defeated the Black Dragon Queen, the queen who ordered him to defeat the Dragon Queen. They praised him for his heroic actions, and he enjoyed the food and drinks, but suddenly he knelt down. Soldiers surrounded the main character and accused him of betrayal. Kline found himself trapped on all sides. The captain said that anyone who helped him would face the same punishment as him. The queen raised her sword and called him a traitor. That was the day he became what he was. People threw stones at Kline, who was tied to a stake, unable to move. Flames engulfed him, and the stones hit him as he screamed for revenge, demanding everyone pay the price. The ritual ended, and the flames died out. The traitor was punished, and a woman in dark clothing approached the remnants of the ritual, promising to give Kline a new future. The age of magic is coming, and he will be a very promising subject. Kline rose from the ashes, becoming a new man. He vowed to destroy the world, and the witch smiled proudly. 3 years later, the main character, now named Shiro, he sat on a rooftop, waiting for something to happen, his eyes caught by something in the crowd. He stood up to join the fun. A group of soldiers shouted at everyone to hand over their weapons. A girl was hiding a sword. She tried to protect it with her small hands, pleading with the soldier to let her keep the sword, the last thing her mother left her. If she lost it, she would lose everything. The soldier told her to shut up and raise his sword to finish her off. Before he could strike the girl, his sword blocked his path. Shiro sat atop the building, mocking the knight as the crowd cheered joyfully. Their savior had come to help them escape from the dirty, greedy knights. The captain threatened to show no mercy to Shiro when he caught him. He ordered his underlings to capture Shiro and bring him back alive. The knights and their boss charged at Shiro, but he was stronger and quicker. He seized the captain and asked him a fundamental question. They were stealing weapons to search for magical equipment, right? The captain panicked. He couldn't afford to lose now. Shiro kicked the captain in a sensitive spot that would leave him in pain for days. He demanded the knights leave everything to him, or he would turn them into unrecognizable things. The knights left their armor and weapons behind, fleeing to save their lives. The girl stepped forward and thanked Shiro for helping her. Shiro waved his hand and said he wasn't a good person. All he was a chivalrous thief. He turned back to the crowd and offered them everything the knights had left behind. The people cheered his name in victory. Boss Knight stood angrily behind a building. He would make Shiro pay for these petty crimes someday. Mischief revealed that once the pieces of the purple flame sword were gathered, a great disaster would occur in the castle. This was written in the prophecy of the fateful ring. Shiro didn't care what would happen to anyone. He didn't become a public hero for justice. He wouldn't be foolish enough to put everyone at risk like this. Messias noticed a new commotion caused by the knights even though Shiro had beaten them badly. They still hadn't learned their lesson. Shiro didn't care whether the knights learned or not. He jumped into the crowd to save anyone who needed saving. From those damn knights, he smashed each house one by one. Homeowners cried as their blood, sweat and tears wasted in a single blow. James once again ordered everyone to hand over everything of value they had. That was by Lord Aizen's orders. James struck an old man for not handing over money. The knights grew more brutal by the day. The old man begged for his life, but James didn't stop. James had a moment of reflection where he wondered why he was doing these things. Before he could crush the old man under his boot, a punch landed on his face. James flew into the air, and Shiro came to save the day. Barry jumped into the fight and tried to punch Shiro, but he only stopped Barry with a finger. Barry was shocked to see this display of raw power, but he didn't say much. Suddenly, 2 hands shot up from the ground and grabbed Shiro's legs. Unable to move and trapped among the knights, he summoned magic to help him escape. The knights rushed in but were blown away by his magic. Barry was shocked to discover that he could use the power of a knight. Shiro grabbed his ear and showcased his skills. Not only could he use this power, but he was also much better at it. Barry asked who he really was, but Shiro cut him off. Why were the knights looting the same place over and over again? Didn't they have enough treasure? Barry had sworn to keep secrets from Lord Aizen. So his lips were sealed. Shiro removed his mask and told Barry that he was even more demonic than Lord Aizen. Shiro grabbed his face and threatened him with the lives of his family. If Barry cared about them, he would reveal Aizen's plan to Shiro. Barry seemed to realize he knew who Shiro really was. Barry feared Shiro and decided to reveal everything to him. He worked for Lord Aizen, and Aizen wanted the pieces of a hidden magical tool right in this part of the city. The magical tool was none other than the purple flame sword. Shiro asked if there was anything else that foolish Lord Aizen was secretly plotting. When confirming there wasn't, he let Barry go. Barry promised never to touch the people of this town again and led his subordinates to retreat. Shiro put his mask back on and realized that peace in this town is very fragile. It won't last long because of magical tools and the evil schemes of Lord Aizen. Shiro sat atop a building, once again complaining about how bored he was, with the witch who revived him standing behind him. She looked at him with amusement. He had become a heroic thief, but there was nothing fun about it. He didn't care about the people's reputation. As long as he was happy, he would take on missions. The witch wondered why one of the greatest knights had become concerned about the common folk. Shiro asked if she was mocking him. The witch laughed at him, asking why she would mock one of the best knights of the century. Shiro fell back into his boredom. Now he was just an ordinary guy. She could mock him all she wanted. The person he once was dead, all thanks to the trees and thunder. The witch comforted him like an older sister. As long as he was alive, there was always a chance. Shiro asked her why she saved him years ago. What was her purpose back then, and what is her purpose now? The witch said she found his suffering interesting. It was delightful to witness a soul defy its fate. Shiro gave up on moping and accepted this as his fate. Meshias comforted Shiro. No matter what happened, she would always be by his side. At Lin Castle, Night Boss knelt before his leader, Lord Izan. Lord Izan scolded Night Boss for failing to capture Shiro. Night Boss apologized and admitted his failure. Shiro was too strong for them to handle. Izan threw a cup at Night Boss. Shiro was just a thief. How could a large number of knights not catch him? Lord Izan expressed his disdain for James, Night Boss, who had been given many chances to catch Shiro. Not only was James humiliated before the crowd, but he also lost all the treasure, even broke the purple flame sword. Izan asked him how he should deal with James, but James begged for another chance to redeem himself, insisting he would definitely catch Shiro this time. Izan called his best men, Barry and Kane, to help James set a trap for Shiro. James no longer deserved to be the captain of the knights. From now on, he would work with Barry and Kane as a regular infantryman. James gritted his teeth at this demotion, but he said nothing to Izan. In the city, Meshias and Shiro looked down at the town from atop a building. Meshias loved high places where she could see everything. The knights had become bullies to the common folk again. At Lin Castle, ordinary people and knights talked about Shiro and his brave deeds. He might be known as a thief, but he certainly showed the rich their place. Rumors about Shiro and his heroic acts were in the air. A woman in a hat listened intently. She couldn't wait to meet her big brother Shiro and support him in the fight against all evil. In the distance, Shiro walked with a weapon in hand. Today, his target was none other than the cruel Lord Izan. Shiro couldn't wait to put him in his place. Someone called his name and he turned to see who had spotted him. The girl in the hat bumped into him and they both fell to the ground. Shiro shouted at the girl, "Who do you think you are, daring to provoke an innocent person on the road?" The girl introduces herself as Carol. She heard that Shiro needed help, so she ran over to assist him. Shiro says he doesn't need any help and she should go back. Carol insists that she came a long way just for him and now he's sending her away. It's cute, but he's being really harsh to her. In her opinion, Shiro tosses her aside like she's worthless, but Carol quickly grabs his leg. She wants to become a gallant thief like him and teach all the bad guys a lesson. Shiro shouts at her to stop, not to let him be exposed in public as if he doesn't have white hair and a flashy suit of armor that reveals his identity. To keep Carol quiet, he tells her to follow him. Carol stubbornly insists that if he lets her join his team, she won't stop screaming. Shiro takes Carol to a corner and asks her what she wants. Carol shows him her latest invention, a type of stinky incense. Anyone who inhales her greatest invention won't be able to eat for 3 days. She plans to use it to help Shiro fight the rich. While Carol explains her device, Shiro thinks she's even craftier than him. He thinks she'll be a good help in the mission to defeat Izan. He decides to take her along under the pretense of teaching her his ways inside the castle. Lord Izan punishes the 3 knights he sent to capture Shiro. Once again, they returned empty-handed and lost pieces of the violet flame sword. His boss, Lord Khan, will be furious to hear this news. Before Izan can punish the knights, someone reports that there's an intruder in the castle. The informant reveals that the intruder is a young girl, but she's throwing cow dung at the knights. Cow dung is disgusting. Anyone who comes into contact with it faints. Izan demands to know which idiot is doing something so foolish. Before they can catch Carol, the ceiling collapses and Shiro makes a grand entrance. Izan grabs his sword, but Shiro quickly pins him against the wall. Izan tries to talk to Shiro, but he doesn't listen. Izan thinks he will overthrow Shiro with a dull sword. He was wrong. Izan's subordinates surround Shiro, but Carol jumps in and starts attacking them. She performs her special attack, stinky incense, and the knights begin to vomit and faint. Shiro uses the knight's power against Izan to make him talk. Izan mocks Shiro, but Shiro presses the sword against Izan. Izan begs for his life, and Shiro waits for him to start explaining. Before Izan can reveal anything, a shadow throws something like a needle at Izan. As soon as the needle touches Izan, Izan's body instantly turns purple and he chokes for no reason. Before Shiro can catch the shadow that poisoned Izan, the shadow disappears. Carol sits next to Izan's body, feeling sorry that he ended up like this. He did so much, and it was all for nothing. The shadow responsible for Izan's death sits in front of a giant man. He asks the shadow if it can eliminate Izan in time. The shadow agreed. He ensured that the poison had entered his body, Not even a miracle could save Aizen now. The man expressed his disappointment with Aizen. He had failed in both missions assigned to him. He couldn't eliminate Shiro and also lost the pieces of the sword. It was time for them to take the next step. The purple fire sword has 2 pieces. One piece is with Shiro and the other needs to be found, which is why Shiro had 1 piece from the start. It was so he could challenge the man on the throne. If they eliminated Shiro and collected all the sword pieces, they would be the strongest in the whole world. The divine power locked in the purple fire sword is too strong. Anyone who unlocks its power could become a god of the world and control all those beneath them. The darkness has its own plans. Once the sword pieces are collected, he will eliminate everyone and seize the sword for himself. The heavy work will be done by these power-hungry individuals while he waits for the right moment to strike. The Connors group has raided Lord Izin's castle. Searching for any valuable assets they can find, Shiro and Mishis sit atop the castle, watching everyone come to take whatever they can find. Mishis asked Shiro if he liked what he saw. This sight would surely make him happy. Shiro commented that it wasn't too bad. Watching a tyrant fall lifted his spirits. Beside them, Carol shouted that she was very happy to help Shiro teach the bad guys a lesson. Shiro patted her head and said they would have much more fun from now on because they had arrived at Aizen. The people monitoring him wouldn't rest for long. Shiro didn't care. He would fight as long as there were bad guys. Macy smiled and talked about another prophecy. Soon, this town would be covered in blood. The boy delivering newspapers announced the news about the deceased royal. Shiro had defeated Lord Izin in his own castle. The news came directly from Lord Kan. Carol read through the newspaper and told Shiro about his new achievement. Shiro was surprised to hear about it. Lord Kan had also invited Shiro to his castle to celebrate this moment. Carol praised that it was nice of him to be invited to the Lord's house. Shiro knew it was a stupid trap, but he would still go. Carol asked if he was happy, and Shiro agreed. He would have much more fun now. Lord Kan, the man on the throne, stood before a glass lens, a woman suspended in water like an experiment in a laboratory. Kan praised the woman Aisha. 4 years had passed, but she remained as kind as ever. Ken's minion told him that Shiro had been publicly invited to the castle for the feast. Whether he would come or not, they didn't know. Ken knew Shiro was a cocky brat. He would come, fully aware that it was a sophisticated trap for him. Ken knew he would arrive at the castle and survive, but would Ken survive? That was something he didn't know. The minion said he was very smart and strong. It would be very hard to defeat him using conventional methods. Ken wonders if the minion is underestimating the Lord's preparations. This isn't just a trap for Shiro. Ken uses magic to summon a legendary lion for support. The Wrath of the Fire Lion is something Ken can create using the 6th shard of the Purple Fire Sword. The power generated from just a small piece is immense. Once he possesses the entire sword, he will rule the world. Ken turns to Aisha. This is their shared dream. Unfortunately, Aisha is no longer the only thing he can keep. He has preserved her body for so long, and the common folks wonder if Shiro will truly meet the boss. At the same time, Shiro enters with Carol following behind. She waves a flag announcing his arrival at the castle, and the boss greets Shiro at the door. He says he's glad to meet Shiro after the glorious victory at Lin Castle. The names of all the heroes who worked for Lin Castle will be remembered by the boss. Shiro isn't swayed by Kan's sweet words. He proposes that Shiro lead Lin Castle into an era of peace. And Shiro agrees. That's his goal too. Inside Kan's castle, a grand feast has been prepared, but Shiro declines any food or drink. He's already eaten. He can't have anything else. Carol fills her plate to enjoy the perks of being friends with a hero. Kan notices Shiro's avoidance. It seems Shiro doesn't trust Kan or the future he is presenting at Lin Castle. Shiro knows what Kan is capable of. He was there when Aizen was dealt with. He knows Kan's methods. A general standing behind Kan tries to harm Shiro for speaking too much, but Kan stops him. Kan asks why Shiro came to visit him if he knows what will happen to him. Shiro pulls out the shard of the purple flame sword and shows it to Kan. He wants to know what this thing does. The metal flies towards Shiro, but Carol blocks them with a plate. This is an attempt to eliminate Shiro and take his trusted sword. Shiro asks if Kan's act of mastery has ended. Kan says Shiro is going too far. It's crucial for him to bring Shiro back to his place. Kan orders his subordinates to eliminate Shiro once and for all. Shiro doesn't move. That's why these rainbow-colored men will always be tools. And nothing better, no need to move a muscle. Shiro blows them all away with his dark power, while Kan remains seated with a wave. The men understand their job. A sorcerer breaks the seal of the legendary beast. The magical lion appears from thin air, and Shiro looks at it in shock. Ken delivers his epic boss monologue, stating that he has finally unleashed the magical beast. How could he lose in a place like this after working so hard? He commands the fury of the lion and it charges at Shiro at full speed. Shiro smiles and calls out to Kan for placing all his trust in a mere lion. Made of magic, the enraged lion attacks Shiro, and he jumps out of the way. The enraged lion uses a magical beam to shove him into the wall. Shiro takes the full hit and crashes hard into the wall. The fans of the general themed around the rainbow about Kan and the furious lion. Khan mocks Shiro about his fighting abilities, warning him not to let this happen to himself. He shouldn't be so complacent and needs to face reality. Shiro steps out of the rubble unscathed. He hasn't seen a high-level beast like this in a long time. Khan orders the furious lion to finish Shiro without hesitation. Shiro sneers at Khan's pathetic attempts to eliminate him. He jumps in front of the furious lion, calling this entire situation absurd. Shiro has been very good at taming wild beasts, so he decides to subdue this one too. Shiro punches the lion, sending it flying, and for a moment it seems he is about to lose. He can use his special ability and enters the battle himself. He summons several spirits and tells Shiro that it's over for him. The spirits latch onto their victim and drain his life force. Shiro laughs and joyfully embraces the spirits without doing anything to him. Ken looks on in shock, and soon after Shiro punches him. He's just stronger than Ken. That's why Ken can't believe he can defeat everything Ken throws at him. Ken doesn't believe Shiro is this strong. Why his spirits have no effect on Shiro? The answer is simple. Remember the ritual lady from Chapter 1. Shiro is also one of the spirits. Shiro prepares to attack Ken with all he's got. Ken panics and orders the Wrath Lion to attack Shiro again. The Wrath Lion jumps into the path, but Shiro punches it away like it's nothing. Ken runs towards the door while Shiro is distracted by the lion. Before Shiro can chase after Ken, the Wrath Lion attacks again. It seems Shiro will have to face this hell. Before he can catch Ken, Ken runs down the castle stairs. The door is smashed open, and Shiro appears behind him. The frantic chase begins. Ken runs through the castle trying to escape from everyone working in the castle, wondering why Ken is hiding. Usually, he is very calm and collected. They wonder if Shiro has scared him. Ken shouts at the servants to keep Shiro distracted while he escapes. Ken uses the same spirit power on the servants, and they all lose energy and collapse to the ground as Shiro arrives on the scene. Everyone has fallen on the floor, and Ken is even farther from Shiro. Ken's logic is to look at all these desperate people and become an image of justice. Shiro won't abandon them like this. He could easily flood the scene without Shiro chasing him like a mad dog. Shiro laughs at Ken. He has returned from hell like a spirit. There's no way he will stop for a crowd of people he doesn't even know are alive or dead. They are just ordinary people. He leaps at Ken with his sword in hand. Ken somehow barely blocks the attack. The force of Shiro's swing breaks Ken's sword, and Ken crashes into the wall. Shiro pins Ken against the wall and points his sword at him. The chase and the battle all come to an end here. At this moment, a figure in a hooded cloak jumps at Shiro, but he recognizes the silhouette before it can attack. The figure slipped away as Shiro grabbed its arm, but this allowed Ken to escape the chains with the purple aura wrapping around Shiro as Ken charged towards the door. In the basement of Lin Castle, Ken approached the vase containing Aisha and asked her what he should do now that Shiro was after him. This might be his end. A magic circle formed beneath Ken's feet. He decided to give it his all in this battle and unleash everything he had against Shiro. The purple flames began to dance around Ken as the vase containing Aisha shattered when she fell into Ken's hands. He promised to fulfill her dream no matter what. The purple energy surrounded Ken as he screamed. Shiro struggled with the chains, yelling and using his power to break free from them. From the chains that held him back, he wondered who it could be and looked towards the exit where he had hidden, the ground shaking violently. Buildings began to shake and collapse, people screaming for help. The earthquake caused the structures to fall. A little girl was trapped under a collapsing building. Before it could crush her, Shiro punched the building until it crumbled. Shiro looked towards the castle. Khan was up to something new, and the rainbow-themed generals rushed towards the basement. Where Khan had called them, he had arranged a reward for all. The green-themed generals looked suspicious. Shiro hadn't even been captured yet, and Ken had set up the rewards for them, the hooded monster from before. Standing at the entrance of the basement, the generals asked him what was going on. Something was very wrong. Shiro was too strong for them. Why was Khan preparing rewards for them when they had done nothing? Did Khan think he could still win against such a powerful enemy? The monster provided them with inside information. Khan knew that Shiro was too strong to handle, so they were creating a secret escape from Lin Castle. Before leaving, he wanted to distribute the treasures from the Lin Vault to everyone. The generals cheered with joy and praised Khan for his generosity towards his subordinates. The generals pushed the monster aside and went into the basement, eagerly welcoming Khan, apologizing for being late. The tentacles cut through all the generals, and their joyful parade was doused. The tentacles belonged to a giant monster with sharp teeth. The generals turned pale and fat on their faces and shrank into skeletons, their bodies thrown against the wall. And the tentacle monster escaped from the basement. The monster transformed into chains and flew up into the sky, watching as it broke free. The tentacle monster wreaked havoc on the surface, destroying buildings and consuming anything in its path. It snatched people and drained their souls with its tentacles. Shiro stepped in, trying to save as many people as possible. He cut through the tentacles and asked Mishis what this new monster was. Mishis floated in mid-air and told him it was a magic warrior. The energy and souls it consumed helped it overcome the flaws caused by errors in the magical equipment. A magic warrior would be like the angry lion, but Mishiu's corrected Shiro. This is Khan. He synchronized with the shard of the purple flame blade and transformed into this flawed warrior. Shiro wasn't surprised to see Khan belittling himself just for power. Shiro stood in the path of the flawed warrior, but it completely ignored him and turned away. Shiro didn't understand why this was happening. Isis explained that the flawed warrior was searching for the furious lion, which confused them since a fragment of the purple flame blade was used to create the furious lion alongside the flawed warrior. They would be able to restore the power of the flawed warrior. Shiro jumped in to prevent Ken from gaining ultimate power, using his strength against the flawed warrior. The warrior counterattacked, and Shiro took the hit, remarking that it wasn't bad to stand against him. The traitorous warrior ran towards the castle again. Shiro picked up his sword and chased after the traitor, determined to give it his all. But he wouldn't let the traitorous warrior merge with the rage lion at the Mercus church. Harold stood atop the rage lion as if it weren't a dangerous beast. She celebrated the lion's defeat, but suddenly a burst of magic shot towards her, and she slammed into the wall. The traitorous warrior plunged a tentacle into the rage lion and sucked out its soul. It only needed 2 more pieces to be free forever. The monster sensed something within it could fight the traitorous warrior for control and keep it out of its body. It had been here before. The traitorous warrior resisted, stating it wouldn't leave this body so soon after a long search for a new one. If Ken knew what was best for him, he would leave the body during their time together, fighting. Shiro caught up with the traitorous monster, attacking it, and the monster praised his strength, and said that all this fun would end here. The tentacle wrapped around Ken inside the traitorous warrior's body, absorbing him and transforming into a more terrifying monster. The giant monster laughed at the feeling of freedom. Sherlock knew that it was no longer Ken, but a completely different being. The monster claimed it was back to rule the world once again, stating that it didn't matter who or what it was anymore. Shiro would meet his fate. That was what he should be worried about. The monster used a magical transformation and turned into a 9-headed wicked dragon, and the dragon heads attacked Shiro, who barely dodged. All the heads lunged at him, ready to tear him apart. Shiro used his slashing skill, but it did nothing against the dragon head behind him. The monster reappeared and slapped him down to the ground, jumping into the air. Ready to crush Shiro under its weight, Shiro created a shield around himself. But for the monster, this is just a stupid attempt to save his own life. The shield shatters and Shiro flies into the air, crashing into the wall. Mishius observes the battle and comments that Shiro is in trouble despite being the strongest knight. Shiro smiles. His opponent is finally worthy and their battle will become legendary. The monster recognizes Mishius and smiles. Will she come to be buried with Shiro? Mishius summons a magic circle behind him and reminds the monster that justice isn't always brute strength. Pursuing the thread of fate is the only shortcut to victory. The monster seems to recognize her. Ken stands in a red place, his hands and feet bound by ropes. He wonders if it's okay to be forgotten and erased from everyone's memory. He can't let this happen to himself. A voice asks him if he remembers his dream. Han recalls when he was young, Aisha made him promise that he would become the strongest in the world and marry her. He remembers protecting her from a group of men by using himself as a shield. For her, he remembers she was always by his side even when he was crowned king and she was queen. As long as he was there, no one could touch her. For her, he chose to make a name for himself in the Empire. He hasn't forgotten his dream. There's no way he can forget it. He can feel a hand on him. Aisha sits in front of him. She makes him remember their promise to stand on top of the world. He feels determined again. He won't let anyone get in his way to power. The monster watches Ken and mocks his pathetic attempts to free himself. Suddenly, Ken struggles against the monster for control of his body. The monster panics and demands Ken to back off. Humans should never challenge the gods. Ken should have been sleeping inside the monster's body. How did he wake up so early? Kane threatens the monster to leave his body. God or not, he has a mission to complete, and the monster is in his way. Shiro and Mishius watch the monster and Kane fight each other for control of the body. Mishius tells Shiro that all she needs to do is push Kane a little in the right direction. The rest of this battle is up to him. Ken yells at the monster to get out of his body, and the monster decides to bring Ken a lot of pain. Mishius watches this unfold and tells Shiro to finish it quickly. He asks her what to do now. If Shiro can synchronize with the fragment of the purple flame sword, he will win, just as the fate ring told her. For Shiro, this task is easy. Nothing matters as long as he can stop Ken from causing more chaos. Shiro goes to get her purple flame sword, but it's gone. She had dropped it earlier while fighting the monster. Ken and the monster continue to fight for control, but Ken has reached his limit and the monster decides to end this foolish uprising. The flames engulf Ken inside the monster's body. He wonders if this is where he meets his untimely end as he battles the monster. Meanwhile, Shiro panics over the lost piece of the purple flame sword. The monster hurls Ken away at max speed. Shiro needs to find the lost piece before the monster does. Or Ken discovers that the sword piece isn't on Shiro. The monster attacks Shiro, who can't comprehend how furious the monster god is right now. It has been trapped in darkness for thousands of years, desperately feeling all those years. It's impossible. A normal human could not understand the wrath of a god like this. Shiro adjusts himself against the monster and uses his shield for protection. He is not human. The monster questions what Shiro is. If not human, Shiro is a wandering spirit of the living world. He once again wields the knight's power and swiftly moves behind the monster. His wrist engulfed in flames as he punches the monster. The monster blocks and asks how he can use so many different techniques. Shiro retreats due to the impact of the dodge. He knows that fighting one-on-one with such a giant monster is not a wise idea. He needs to find the piece quickly. He looks around and finally his gaze lands on something sparkling in the rubble. Shiro runs towards the piece of the purple flame sword. With starry eyes, the monster realizes that Shiro has stopped attacking it and has run off somewhere. The monster also notices the sparkling piece. The piece of the purple flame sword in the rubble. It also has starry eyes to see its missing puzzle piece. The monster rushes towards the blade, not allowing the final piece to be stolen as Shiro prepares to grab the blade piece. The monster pushes him out of the way. Shiro crashes into another wall for the 10th time in this battle. The last piece is in the monster's hands, ending it for Shiro and the world he is desperately trying to protect. The monster merges with the last piece and unleashes its final form. It laughs after being freed from its prison, feeling awesome to have full power. The entire world will kneel before the monster. Shiro stands in front of it. He will never let that happen. In the underground room of Lin Castle, Mizia stands before Kan, pondering fate. Where does it begin? Where does it end? The world they live in illuminates those obsessed with such things. She casts her magic on Kan and the flames turn purple. Kan vows that he won't let anyone stand in his way. On the surface, the monster grows increasingly ferocious. It declares that everything is over for humanity. It has returned with full power. Shiro blocks its path. He will never let the monster have its way. When synchronization is complete, the monster will ensure that Shiro is the first to face its wrath. Suddenly, the monster's body turns purple from one side. The monster realizes that Ken has returned and is trying to reclaim his body, causing the monster to punch itself in the face. Ken says that because he stole his body, the monster deserves 1,000,000 deaths, while the two are busy fighting over who will keep Ken's body. Shiro sees an opportunity to end this madness. The chapter starts with a flashback. Shiro recalls his past life, and how he was willing to give up everything for the woman who exiled him and burned him alive. He remembers standing in the snow as she reminded him of his purpose. She asks him if he is ready to serve the Empire and its people. Kline or Shiro will do anything to make his ideals a reality. Shiro charges at the monster at full speed. Using the power of a knight, he punches the monster while it's distracted. A piece of the blade falls from its hand and the monster lands a few feet away. The piece of the blade falls into Shiro's hand as the monster runs to retrieve it and complete its transformation. Before the monster can do anything, Ken fights it from within, ready to reclaim his body. The monster stops as Ken yells at it to get out of his body. Shiro coughs as he watches the monster fight itself. His body can't take it anymore. He wonders why he stubbornly fights when everyone has betrayed him. Perhaps Queen Natsu isn't the only one he loves. This time he won't lose. Shiro grips the piece of the blade and merges it with his body. A purple light envelops him. As he screams for the transformation to take place, the monster notices the light and screams at Shiro for desecrating its sacred relic. A mysterious figure in the air witnesses all this and comments that he has avoided this for a long time, but this moment has been snatched from him. Nisus watches from the underground, also feeling pleased that she chose to bring back the right person from the dead. Returning, Shiro transforms into a knight in purple armor, telling the monster that this battle is over, but the monster is busy fighting itself to eliminate Kane. It wonders why it has to struggle with Kane when it is so much stronger. Kane appears from within the monster for just a moment, and tells Shiro that the monster's weakness is its heart. Shiro should make Khan proud, and Shiro vows to do so. The monster curses Shiro and Khan, calling them fools about to disappear while ruining its plans. The monster has 6 pieces and Shiro only has 1. What chance does Shiro have standing before such a giant and powerful foe? Shiro locks onto his target and prepares for the next battle. For Shiro, this is one of those moments where he fights with all his might. This battle is exactly that. The monster and Shiro exchange blows. Each strikes stronger than the last, but neither falls. The monster reminds Shiro that when an ordinary mortal combines with its piece, he will be consumed by the piece and ultimately stop breathing. Shiro says the monster doesn't understand him. He was once a weak child from a poor family. He was very weak and powerless. If he were the kind of person who easily gives up like that, he couldn't have come this far in life. The monster realized that after Shiro's speech, his speed increased significantly. Shiro summoned magic in his hands and aimed at the monster, carrying the hopes of many on his shoulders. There was no way he would back down and give up now. Shiro punched the monster away and said goodbye. This was the end of this battle. Shiro recalled the night Natsu told him that he was a knight of the Empire, his power fading as he stood alone in what used to be a city, rain falling as Kane lay on the ground. Next to the shards of the *** violet flame blade ***. Shiro approached him and told him to get up and look at what he had done to his city. Because of just a shard of a stupid sword, he had turned an entire city to ash. Kane told Shiro to shut up. He hadn't even lost to Shiro. Shiro complained about his stupidity. If it weren't for Kane, this battle wouldn't have happened. Kane admitted he had been deceived by Hell. Hell had given him lies that if he collected all the pieces of the violet flame blade he would become the strongest in the world. Hell never mentioned the side effects to Kane, which is why he was blindly pursuing power. Shiro realized who Hell was. It was the guy who had used chains to hold Shiro back. Kane said if this didn't end his life, he would crazily seek revenge on Hell. He said, "Even you deceived me," but he didn't tell Shiro. Messias walked in with Aisha in hand. She said that even if she betrayed him, she brought back the one closest to Kane. She thanked Kane for lending him strength and helping them overcome the disaster. Kane was surprised that Messias knew about his desires or plans. Messias said his life began with Aisha and should also end with her. Kane took Aisha from Messias and said they would be together forever. They let the moment settle before Shiro ruined it by asking if Aisha would die. Messias opened a portal and told Khan to let Aisha go. She was the reason he was still suffering, but it wasn't her fault. It was fate's choice. Shiro agreed. He wanted power from the sword shards, but that goal made both men greedy and tormented. Messias used her magic to lift the sword. Violet flame blade. Was the only weapon. Among the 7 magical relics capable of rewriting fate, under perfect conditions, it could wipe out an entire town with a single slash. Shiro mentioned that he was lucky. The monster couldn't destroy the last one and handle whatever Hell would throw at them. Suddenly, a portal opened behind Shiro. He sensed something was wrong and jumped up. He barely avoided the chains lunging at him, ready to capture and pull him into the portal. Hell jumped out of the portal and charged toward the violet flame blade Messiah's could protect the sword. Hell grabbed it. Shiro acted immediately, ready to take down Hell. Hell blocked his attack with the blade, mocking Shiro and saying that no matter what he did, he's powerful, but your little hero game ends here. Shiro unleashes his dark power and slashes at the support, the chains break, and Hell collapses. He regains his balance and prepares to leave. Former Night King were not. After battling a godlike creature, Shiro won't have the strength to fight Hell anymore. Shiro knows this is true. All his strength has been spent taking down the monster. Hell says it's time for it to leave. Messias tells him to choose his path carefully. It seems they both know each other. Hell, or as Messias calls it, Ravis. It says she will pay for betraying him one day. Messias tells him he will soon see his downfall, and so will she. By the hand of the person he despises. Ravis smiles and tells her to come. He can't wait to see what kind of person the witch of fates has chosen. The time of the gods is approaching. How can such a foolish human fight the gods with power beyond his own? Ravis leaves, and Shiro berates himself for not being able to fight this guy. Shiro asks Messias if he knows Ravis. She says they have a long history. He is just an acquaintance of hers. He yells at her to at least give him a heads up, so he can prepare to fight everyone. Messias reminds him that he isn't strong enough to fight other enemies, considering the brutality of the last battle. Shiro can't believe that Messias isn't coddling him and telling him how to defeat Hell too. In the back, Carol cries for help under the rubble. Shiro says this time he won't make a fuss about Messias hiding information, but next time, she better. She has to tell him everything so he can prepare in time. Messias agrees. She didn't expect Hell to return so quickly. Maybe she underestimated her opponent. Carol runs towards Shiro, complaining that Thor Wrath Lion hit her, and he has to comfort her. Shiro pats her head and says as long as she has him, he won't let anyone hurt her. Then he turns back to scold Messias, saying she will tell him everything she knows tonight. His wife agrees to his request. Carol fights Shiro to stay by her side because she is injured, but Shiro wants to rest because he is extremely tired. After the battle with the traitorous warrior, Carol makes him promise to recover before meeting her, so they can have fun together. Shiro promises to do so. People begin to appear from the rubble and realize Shiro is standing in the fallen city. Once again, he has saved them from a deadly monster. Shiro smiles, noticing he is the center of attention, unlike last time when they burned him at the stake. This is good for him and his reputation. At night in the basement of Castle Lin, Shiro meets Messias. She tells him about where he can harmonize with the shards of the magical crystal. All of this is guided by fate. Both cannot change or control that. Shiro tells her to stop rambling and give him information about Ravis and other magical relics. A purple orb spins in Messias's hand. She tells Shiro to take her hand, and together they will see the history of how everything unfolded. Shiro doesn't believe her. Instead, he asks her what she is secretly calculating. Messias feels hurt by his distrust. After all, they are allies. Shiro reminds her that they were allies before she started hiding important information from him. Because she saved his life, he owes her this. He touched the purple orb in her hand, and Messias promised to tell him everything she knows. The environment changed. and Shiro, along with Messias, teleported to the sky above a lush green land with no houses or castles. Messias told Shiro that this was before civilization began. The gods ruled the world 5,000 years ago from afar. A crowd of people ran for their lives as some giant monsters crushed them underfoot, and they showed each other better ways to play with their prey. This was the time when the gods had overwhelming power, and humans were their victims, nothing more than a herd of cattle. Shiro asked how humans at this point could defeat the gods without any tools or special powers. In reality, humans have never been able to defeat the gods. Only the gods can defeat other gods because humans are too weak. They had to manipulate the gods and make them fight each other. The gods had to battle to the death, and humans would enjoy the outcome. At that time, there was only one human who could do this, and that was Ravis, a young-looking radish running towards someone, telling them he had important information. Shiro didn't understand what information a radish could have. Mises explained that the gods were always scheming to dethrone one another. Things aren't that simple, and they aren't all friends. The radish told the god that he had discovered that Kline was training the technique to seal gods. The god slammed his hand on the ground in anger, demanding Ravis tell him who Kline was trying to deal with. Ravis suggested the god attack Kline first. If they could master their sealing technique, the battle would end in an instant. The god stood up, ready to face Kline and teach him a lesson. As the god left, another man jumped out from the bushes. Ravis told him to inform the other humans that the gods were fighting. Ravis promised to put an end to this divine matter. Challenging the gods this way certainly requires a lot of courage, Shiro commented, and Mrs. agreed. At first, Ravis was just a dragon-slaying hero. The gods fought, the earth shook, but the gods exchanged blows. The god Ketran commanded Ravis to seal Chegnos. Ravis jumped out of the water and activated the sealing technique. Chegnos realized that both Ketran and Ravis had betrayed him. Golden chains sprang up from the ground and wrapped around Chegnos. He struggled for control but remained sealed. The god was sealed, and instead, the blade of the purple flame lay there. Ketran picked up the blade and called Chegnos a fool. Ravis asked Ketran what he intended to do with the other gods. Realizing his cunning plans, Ketran swung the blade, and it split a mountain in half. Ketran asked who would dare question his power. He had the power of Chegno and the sealing techniques. Ravis bowed his head, accepting Ketran's words. He mocked his absolute power. Shiro understood that this was where everything for the gods began. Messias said that once a god stepped into the magical sealing circle, even an ordinary person could activate the seal and trap that god. After Chegnos was sealed and the purple flame sword appeared, Pandora's box opened, and the gods began to suspect each other more. They used humans to convey information and carry out their dirty work. Humans were granted special power and privilege to play the role of the gods' puppets every day. Humans destroyed the power. One day, when that power was strong enough, humans sealed the last god. Ravis, who defeated the gods, ultimately became the god of the world. He brought a future where humanity reigns. It was all fate. Shiro returns to the present. Misuzu helps him realize that Ravis is not an ordinary enemy. He is an ally of the gods and has the power to dethrone them with the chains of destiny. Ravis attempted to do what no one in history could achieve. Ravis stood before Natsu, telling her that he knew the power she was interested in. The man who possessed this power was also interested in them. It seemed that Natsu used her ability, but instead of harming Ravis. The arrows flew past him. She reminded Ravis of their promise. She helped him when he needed it. Now he must help her. The people in the Barbaros family are something she cannot stop. Instead, she will send Ravis to hell, where he belongs. Ravis tells her he was just joking, but Natsu doesn't accept that. She will get rid of him one day, Ravis tells her too. Instead, imagine a bright future they could build by combining their powers. Back in Lin Castle, Shiro sits with Messias. He needs more information about Ravis. If the Wheel of Fate cannot show Ravis's past, Messias can always tell him. Messias does not reply, so Shiro gets angry and yells at her. He kept his promise to gather magical items for her. How can he fight Ravis when he knows nothing about him from the start? Messias tries to calm him down. The Wheel of Fate doesn't want him to know about Ravis, but she cannot reveal what she is not allowed to. When the time comes, Shiro will understand on his own. Shiro mocks her. She always hides behind the Wheel of Fate and Destinies, as if she's using her position as a fate witch to avoid serious discussions. Messias reminds him that she is just a lonely soul. Shiro shouldn't spend too much time with her. Shiro tells her he feels the same. In the morning, Carol bursts into Shiro's room, where he is sleeping on the floor. He yells at her for ruining his beautiful sleep. But Carol brings very good news. Behind Carol, the villagers stand there. The good news is that he will become the Lord of Castle Lin. The people bow their heads to Shiro before he can understand what is happening. They have truly accepted him as the Lord of Castle Lin. From now on in the town, they will obey every command he gives. They owe him their lives and thank him for saving them all. To emphasize their determination, they said they wouldn't leave until he accepted the title of Lord. Shiro put his mask back on and told them he couldn't accept the title. He never did any of this to save the people. He did it all for himself, to scare them off. He started kicking the furniture in the room. If they wanted a savior, they could find some other fool, not him. The people looked at him in shock. Who would have thought their hero would be so bitter? The people lost hope in Shiro. They would never trust anyone again. Shiro left the room. As the memories of the night he was burned flashed in his mind, he wouldn't let himself be swept away. Absolutely not. Shiro stood outside the Lin Castle. Mischief hovered in the air and asked him if he was leaving. Everyone in Lin Castle wanted him to stay. Shiro knew they didn't want him. They just wanted someone strong like him to protect them at all times. Mischief asked if he felt attached to anyone since he had been in Lin Castle for a year. He would definitely feel some form of attachment to someone. Attachment wasn't good for someone like Shiro. He told Messias to shut up and to follow him. Before Shiro could go any further, the girl he had saved countless times stopped him. She heard he was about to leave. She had prepared a gift for him. Shiro happily accepted the food and said he liked it a lot. The girl wished him all the best for his journey. He was a hero saving people. She would pray for his safety before the gods. Shiro thought about her words and wished the girl good luck too. He would also pray for her safety. He said goodbye to her and started to move on. He looked at the loaf of bread she had given him. It was a sign of a bountiful harvest at Lin Castle. Shiro sat on a tree outside Levi Castle. On the ground, Carol tried to start a fire, but it was too cold to ignite. She complained to Shiro, and he jumped down from the tree. He used his power to start the fire, and Carol praised him for his heroic actions. Shiro asked why she was still following him. What was her motive? Shiro was her idol. She wanted to be by his side and go on adventures together. She thought he was so cool. Shiro knew she was just lying and didn't understand why she was following him. He asked her to answer honestly. She didn't really have a reason to follow him, did she? Carol wanted to know what kind of answer would satisfy him. She responded sincerely. Shiro asked her to give him some fragrance, and she agreed. Now he let her go, but in the future, he wanted to know why she chose to follow him blindly. She agreed. Shiro looked up at Messias, the wheel of fate glowing behind her, as she pleaded with fate to show her how to avoid the disaster they had stepped into. Messias teleported to an area filled with stars, and she looked around, and heard voices telling her to save them from the cold before she could figure it out. A gigantic figure reached out towards her. The creature calls her foolish for trying to control her fate. Nisus teleports back to the present world and falls from the sky. Shiro jumps up to save her from falling. He asks her what happened. It seems she used the Ring of Fate too much, accidentally awakening the sleeping god of fate, and it swallowed her whole. Shiro comforts her, saying they don't need to read their fates. If Shiro sees something he doesn't like, he'll crush it into pieces. Mishis needs to stop acting cool to protect him. The next morning, Shiro wakes Carol up for breakfast. He asks her if she wants to try something exciting. Carol jumps up in delight. She wants to try a new game. Shiro tells her that today they will go to the lava castle. His main goal is to overturn the castle. Carol says she wants to join him on the mission inside the lava castle, where a woman is kneeling before a giant man. She tells him that she can't find someone named Nicole. The giant man, Director Brighton, tells her to keep looking. The lava castle isn't that big. They should have found her by now. The woman says that since Nicole is a very scary person, the knights don't want to go find her alone. The female knight has reached her limit. Brighton tells the woman to dismiss all the knights who don't want to cooperate. They don't need useless people like that serving them. Before they can continue their conversation, the main door is broken down. Shiro and Carol burst through the main door, announcing that they're here to take down the castle hall. Shiro throws the unpleasant scent of Carol to the ground. Those who smell the awful stench plug their noses, but Shiro tells them to take a breath of the pollution. The men who inhale it will become stronger, and the women who inhale it will become 10 times more beautiful. Shiro uses his wind power to spread the foul smell. Deep inside the Lavi castle, those tricked by his lies start to vomit. They call him insane for spreading this stench in the air. Director Brighton and the female knight watch the out-of-control people due to Shiro's health product. The female knight steps up to handle the intruders. She will give them a break. Wright promises to overlook her mistakes in the previous investigation if she can get rid of these two crazies. He leaves the scene to deal with Nicole's case. The female knight rushes towards Shiro with a weapon in hand. Shiro recognizes the female knight approaching at high speed. His first prey is ready, he thinks as he prepares for battle. The female knight vows not to let Shiro have his way. Inside the lava castle, Shiro prepares for the challenge. Before the female knight can strike Shiro, he flips her over and steps back. The knight realizes her pouch is missing and demands Shiro return it. Shiro holds up a coin. This is too little for someone of a knight's status. The woman demands he return the coin, as it's her salary for this month. Shiro says this is just worthless junk and throws the coin back to the woman. He looks over at Brighton. He looked at Brighton, ready to steal. Shiro rushed toward Brighton, who immediately recognized him and used his knight power to defend himself. Shiro found Brighton's skills impressive, but before Brighton could attack, Shiro moved away. The iron tower floating from Brighton might be huge, but was very slow. Shiro knocked Brighton away, sending him crashing into the wall. Brighton now realized that Shiro was not an ordinary person. He needed to call for backup, and Shiro mocked him. He asked if he wanted to lend him some money, and before he could take another step, a rope wrapped around Shiro's leg. The woman pulled the rope to stop Shiro from walking or hurting Brighton further. Shiro found all this interesting. These people were much more entertaining. Compared to the losers at Lynn Castle, the woman yelled at Shiro, knowing his identity and what he had done at Lynn Castle. She wouldn't let him do the same here. Shiro told her to calm down. She didn't need to be angry. All they were doing was having a bit of fun. Brighton saw this as an opportunity and raised his hand to signal. Shiro noticed smoke in the sky. This was becoming a real headache. Why call for backup? Even Carol was fleeing from a group of knights chasing her. She told them to keep following so they wouldn't trouble Shiro's target more. The knights demanded she stop. She mocked them and told them to take more of her stinky spices. It's good for health. She dropped another bottle full of stinky spices, causing the knights to panic. The spices exploded, and the men fell down. Carol escaped the scene after mocking the knights again. The knights noticed the signal in the sky. Was there an emergency that Brighton had to call for backup? The knights left Carol behind and ran to where Brighton was. If they didn't hurry, they would be in big trouble. Shiro cut the rope holding his leg and rushed off. He told them they would play another day. The woman was angry, daring to enter the castle hall like it was her home and causing trouble. Then leaving as soon as things got tough, Shiro told her that this was like a trip to an amusement park. She should enjoy it more. The woman threw a sword at Shiro to hurt him. He dodged and left the scene, pulling Carol along the way. Carol thought he would make the female knight pay, but Shiro had other plans. It seemed the woman was chasing them, but Shiro told her that today was just a greeting. The real fun would start soon. With that, Shiro dashed out of Lava Castle. The woman demanded they stop, but before she was ready, a bottle of Carol's stinky spices fell to the ground. A woman realized she was too late to protect herself. She vowed to capture both Carol and Shiro and make them pay. A bandaged girl fled from a group of knights chasing her. The girl begged anyone to help her and save her from the knights. She stumbled and fell, and the knights caught up to her, ready to split the reward placed on the girl's head. The girl is truly scared to go back. She hates the days spent in the place she escaped from. The knights don't care about her. They talk about how to split the rewards and how they'll use them. The girl glares at the knights with anger as a green mist starts to surround them, and they realize they're in trouble. The girl is a witch. Before any knight can escape, they turn into ice crystals. None of them can move. The girl stands up and runs on, but this time Misius blocks her path. The girl tells Misius to stay back. She doesn't want to hurt any innocent people. Misius steps closer and hugs her. She tells the girl that it's all over. The girl starts to cry. In the western district of Lavi Castle, Shiro and Carol are enjoying a feast. Their plan is simple. They'll eat as much as they can before anyone realizes they're the culprits from before. Carol says, what if they get caught? They'll pack the food and take it with them. Shiro laughs, feeling proud that Carol is just like him. He's teaching her well. The bartender looks at them both, thinking they're a very odd pair. A man approaches the bartender and says these two are wanted criminals. He jumps into action and yells for everyone to catch those two. Shiro and Carol realize they've been made. Without wasting a second, they run away. The knights chase after them, but Carol throws some of her stinky spices. The knights panic, because they know how deadly those bombs smell. The female knight kneels before Brighton and apologizes for not catching Shiro and Carol. Brighton doesn't care. He knows the two of them are too strong for her. The female knight suggests using the full power of Lavi Castle. That way they can take them down. Brighton tells her to give up. That's the easier solution. Finding Nicole is their priority. Those two idiots can do whatever they want in Lavi Castle right now. The female knight doesn't understand this goal. Those two idiots will get their rest someday, but the biggest monster is Nicole. They need to find her first. The female knight hesitates but agrees. Outside the castle hall, Shiro and Carol return to their base. They feel great being wanted criminals on their first day in a big castle. It would be boring if you weren't a wanted criminal. For them, Shiro looks around for Misius, who called them here and now she's gone. Misius sits under a tree with the child from before. She comforts the child. Shiro steps in and asks who the kid is. Misius says it's a child who must live as a sacrifice as fate has decreed. Even she feels sympathy for the child. Shiro asks if this is Nicole, and indeed, the knights are looking for a child named Nicole. In the castle hall, Misius confirms this information. The fate of Lavi Castle rests in Nicole's hands, who's sleeping on Messiah's lap. The Lord of Lavi Castle, Fang, is lecturing in the library, teaching about the will of God and his testimonies. Brighton entered the library and apologized to Fang for interrupting his lecture. Fang wasn't angry but said that he couldn't be interrupted while reading. No matter how urgent the news was, Brighton still apologized, but the news was indeed very urgent. Fang had learned that the knights had lost a sample, and there was an intruder in the castle hall. Brighton was shocked. He asked how Fang knew, but Fang had his ways, saying that once you let go of your thoughts, the oracle would bless you with foresight. Fang returned to his reading, with no room for foolish thoughts. As they preached the word of God, Brighton just smiled at the greatness of his lord. In the Branquino residence, the Night Lady Arena entered and the servants greeted her, but she went straight to her father, an old man sitting on a platform calling for her. He didn't have much time left, but he needed to leave a secret for his daughter. Arena listened carefully as the old man told her that once he passed away, she would live as a lady of the Branquino family. Arena simply agreed. Her father praised her, but she overworked herself, making him worry too much about his health. He regretted being strict with her when she was younger. He apologized for his mistakes, but Arena interrupted him, stating that as a member of the Branquino family, she had to be strong to fulfill her duties. Her father said that as long as she was here, the Branquino family would be safe. Being a woman, there would be times when the world would be too harsh on her. Arena assured that she would face everything head-on. The old man lay down and thanked her for her time. A holy man approached the old man and checked his pulse. He told Arena that the old man had passed away as fate had decreed. Arena said goodbye to her father and wished him to rest well. Shiro and Misius discussed the nickel drama. Shiro wondered, who could be great enough to leave an entire castle for a woman? Misius said that all these things happened due to fate, otherwise he would still be ashes. Before fate, all are just insects. Carol reached out to Nicole, but Misius warned her to be careful. Nicole was still very scared. She shouldn't be made to panic. Shiro said he came to the lobby castle for the ice hammer, not to save the lobby castle and rescue a little girl. She provided him with important information. Was he interested? If she told him that a piece of the ice hammer was inside this little girl's body, this caught Shiro's attention. Carol exclaimed upon hearing this information, who could be cruel enough to do such a thing to a small child? Shiro said that the people at Lobby Castle were worse than he imagined. Nicole whimpered on Misius's lap, calling for her mother. In Nicole's dream, she was running through a maze, begging someone to help her. A chain wrapped around her ankle, and she fell to the ground. A giant hand reached for her. Fang said that she was the chosen princess. The Lord had chosen her, and she should feel his blessings. Fang lifted her in his hand and tried to implant a piece into her belly. He said that the Lord was entering her body. You should accept his blessing. Nickel shouted at Fang to stop, but he didn't listen. Nickel yelled and woke up in a bed. Misia stood by the window watching the girl struggle. She comforted the girl, saying that she was safe now. Mrs. promised to keep Nicole safe from now on. Nicole hugged Mrs. and started to cry. Shiro and the gang rested in a cabin just outside the castle. Shiro was cooking but didn't understand why he had to do it. Carol handed him vegetables and told him to move his hands more and talk less. A frail girl was waiting for food. Shiro saw it as a challenge but told Carol not to rush him. He would show off his cooking skills to her. Carol jumped up in excitement when she saw Shiro cooking. Nicole asked Misius if she was the one who saved her. Misius said it was fate that saved Nicole. Thanks to fate's guidance, Nicole was able to meet Misius. They were both servants of fate. Nicole poured her pain onto Nicias. Lord Fang tried to turn her into a monster. She felt very scared. What did she do to become a monster? Nicias comforted her and told Nicole to share everything with her. She would help her. Before Nicole could say anything, panic washed over her. She trembled and covered her face, not wanting to remember anything. Remembering was painful too. Shiro and Carol burst in through the door with food in hand. Misius told Nicole to eat. They could remember later. The three of them sat at the table. Nicole thanked Shiro for helping her, but he didn't care as long as they were together. No one could touch Nicole. Shiro quickly pulled his hand back from Nicole before anyone noticed, but Misius saw the green mark left on Nicole where Shiro touched her. Late at night, Carol and Nicole were sleeping. Shiro sat on the roof looking up at the moon. He turned to Misius, who was watching him from a distance. He invited her to keep him company, and she agreed. Can't let a lonely hero be by himself. Shiro said he didn't want to cooperate with Misius anymore. Being with her was too boring. Misius reminded him that he was the hero of Castle Lind. How could it be boring? He said he was fed up with acting like a hero or a villain. He hated himself. He didn't even know how he should act, like a hero or a villain. Misius told him to forget about acting. If he did what he wanted, recognition would come to him, and he would understand. Shiro understood, but he was worried. Misius said it was fine. They were both powerless beings. So they did what they could. That's why they were together. Shiro agreed. In the end, they were just two hopeless beings. Inside the castle lobby, Arena and her knights showed everyone the poster of Carol and Shiro. They asked if anyone had seen the two of them. An old man said he had seen the man and pointed in a random direction. Arena quickly started walking with the knights following closely behind. A voice called the knights asking where they were going. Perhaps they were looking for the master of the voice. Arena knew who this person was. She turned around and saw Shiro sitting on the wall looking at her. Arena told him that it was all over. She knows his true identity. He is the one who attacked Lin Castle and he is a demon. Shiro corrects her. Her information is wrong and she is really stupid. Arena orders the knights to attack Shiro, but he dodges all their efforts. Shiro provides Arina with the correct information. If she had done her research, she would know he was once a beloved noble thief. Arina uses her special ability, the Branquino's sword. Shiro notices the new weapon. Arina leaps into battle. She will make Shiro pay. Misha sits beside Nicole. She jolts awake from a nightmare. Suddenly, she wakes up and screams that she remembers. She tells Misios there are many corpses inside the church. The monsters inside the church bit people until they ascended to heaven. Misios asks Nicole if she feels okay. Nicole trembles in fear and holds her head. Her family, her friends, everyone she loves is dead in the church. The gang sent them to a place they can't return from. Misios looks at Nicole with an angry expression. In the castle, Arina and Shiro are fighting. Arina uses the power of a knight and Shiro praises her strength. Shiro jumps out of the way as Arina sends fireballs his way. Arina chases after him to catch him. The knights below look up and wonder if they should follow the couple. It's crazy to fight in the middle of the night. Even if they start chasing, they won't make it in time. Shiro mocks Arina that she shouldn't be fighting in the middle of the night. She needs beauty, sleep, or her skin will look dull. Arina tells him to shut up. She doesn't care about beauty. What she cares about is the reputation of the Branquino family, and bringing justice to Lavi Castle by defeating the man who is disrupting its peace. Arina throws more weapons at Shiro, but he dodges. He warns Arina that she should be careful. Who knows? Maybe his teammates are lurking in the shadows, waiting to finish her off where no one can help. Arina stops and asks him what he means. Shiro recalls himself when he was young. He also lived by justice. They are the same in that regard. Arina yells at him not to include her among people like him. He is a shameless fool sneaking into the castle during the day. Shiro tells her to calm down. Arina asks why Shiro is holding Nicole. The knights saw her next to him. She is the princess of the castle. He has no right to take her away. Shiro laughs as if Arina has told a funny story. A girl trembling and saying she can't be a princess. It's unbelievable. Arina demands to know what Nicole told him. Shiro says she can't speak. Thinking about Nicole makes Shiro angry and he attacks Arina. She barely dodges. They exchange blows. Shiro explains that the little girl was very scared. The fear comes from deep within her body. Even he can feel it. Arina thinks all of this is absurd. A princess chosen by the gods shouldn't be afraid of anyone or anything. Shiro understands that Arina knows nothing. Those who follow justice are easily deceived, just like he was deceived by Natsu. Shiro blocks another attack and steps back. Arina demands that he fight her face to face instead of running away. Shiro bets in 2 weeks. The justice she talks about means nothing. Nicole Fang is right, and everything will reveal a different face from what she knows. If this doesn't happen and Shiro loses the bet, Arina can do whatever she wants with him. Arina asks him what he would do if he wins. Shiro only gives her a few pieces of advice. He tells her not to be deceived by others and just follow what she believes in. All she needs to do is be a bit smarter. Arina accepts the bet, but she doesn't trust his words. Shiro tosses her a coin, which she easily catches. This coin will be proof of their bet. Shiro turns away but adds one last thing, that in 2 weeks, they will both see what her perspective on justice will be. When everything falls apart, Shiro leaves, and Arina scolds herself for being so weak and pathetic. Shiro jumps from one rooftop to another, and Mishis joins him. She asks him what he's doing with her. Mishis never thought Shiro would like Arina. Shiro can't be bothered with such a fool. Mishis invites him to try a new place and starts leading him there. The new place is the Holy Church at Lavic Castle. Mishis recounts what Nicole told her about the church being full of corpses and useless souls. Crying and hoping for release, inside the church, a nun prays to God Antinous, asking for his protection. For those who have always gone missing in Lavic Castle, a man notices her and scolds her for it, demanding an explanation. The nun explains exactly what she is doing. The man gets angry and tells her to go elsewhere unless she wants to continue going missing. The nun stands up and leaves. As she steps outside, she pleads to the deity for his protection. A voice calls her and asks why the church, and where everyone prays, is in such decline. Shiro sits in a tree when the nun asks him who he is, and he introduces himself as Shiro, the gallant thief of Lin Castle. He then jumps down from the tree and approaches the nun. She tells him that those who hide their faces are all demons. He must be up to something. Shiro says he's planning something, and the nun asks him to tell her. Is he here to cause more chaos? She pulls out a knife. Shiro says if she's not planning to use the knife, she should put it away, or she'll get hurt. The nun prepares for battle. She may be a nun, but she has received knight training. Shiro leaps at her, and the fight ends. He tells her that countless souls are begging to be saved. How can she ignore them? The nun doesn't believe him. The Holy Church is the holiest place in the entire Lavi Kingdom. Shiro can't accuse the Holy Church of something so blasphemous. The nun protests, but Shiro tells her to shut up. She will obediently listen to him unless she wants to face the consequences. The nun agrees with him and closes her eyes. Suddenly, purple mist starts to envelop her. She opens her eyes abruptly, and Shiro asks if she sees what he wants her to see. This is the reality of the Holy Church, the castle hall, not as she thinks, beneath the steps of the holy church. Countless souls scream every day for liberation, but the nuns just pray and leave without caring for the fallen souls. The nun doesn't believe him. He's playing tricks on her. If something this big happened at the church, she'd definitely know. Shiro places another bet. He tells her there are countless corpses beneath the church, and the nun might even be responsible for some of them. If he wins, she'll obey him. If she wins, she can do whatever she wants with him. The nun agrees but warns him that if she loses, she will never go against her duty or vows as a nun. Shiro agrees, but soon, the nun will see that her god is truly powerless. The nun leads Shiro inside the church, showing him the statue of her god, Antinous. Everyone who comes to the church kneels and prays before the statue. Shiro apologizes. He has only removed gods but has never prayed to anyone. The nun shames him with those words, saying he cannot be saved by God. Shiro says that his faith has nothing to do with the nun. Soon, she'll forget that gods are good. They are the ones causing problems in this world. The man scolded the nun. Mina returns and starts scolding her again. She isn't leaving, and now there's someone else beside her. Shiro looks at the man and immediately takes action, grabs his head and slams it down on the floor. Shiro pins the man to the ground, immobilizing him. The man can only utter words of self-defense, asking if Shiro knows who he is and revealing that he is Lord Lavi, protected by Fang. Shiro says he knows exactly who he is, but he will still get beaten by him and that he is not mistaken about who he is. He punches Lavi. Lavi screams in pain and grits his teeth, saying he will never forgive Shiro. Lavi now begins to read a spell, calling upon the souls of the dead for help, but Shiro calls his attack pathetic, saying such cheap tricks can't take him down, and he creates a magic circle to protect himself from the impending attack. Lavi stands up, only to be kicked down to the ground again by Shiro and have his teeth broken. Shiro grabs his head and slams it against the wall, threatening him about the hiding place of the secret passage. Lavi seems unconcerned for his life as he tells Shiro he won't provide that information. Shiro appears even angrier now, saying that if Lavi doesn't tell him about it, he'll just find it on his own. If Lavi eventually tells him, then Shiro will let him live. Lavi starts to laugh maniacally, thinking how dare Shiro think he has the right to decide his life and death. Lavi serves the god Antinous, and his life and death will depend on the will of his god. Shiro doesn't spare him this time, crushing his head with enough pressure to end him, saying that his god can't save him this time, that's for sure. The nun from before witnesses the entire event and asks if Shiro has gone mad. How could he even think about ending the life of a follower of Lord Antino? Shiro would definitely face divine judgment. Shiro moved towards her, saying that if divine judgment came for him, they would see whose power truly surpasses the other. The gods were his, telling her to lead him down to the basement. Otherwise, she would meet the same fate as Lavi. The nurse thought for a moment and reluctantly led him to where he wanted to go. She opened the passage for him and lit a fire to guide him down, saying she had seen the monk come down from the basement several times, but everyone else was forbidden from entering. Shiro asked if she could sense the strength of people like her who had never been to the battlefield, so she shouldn't feel such intense power. She told him she wouldn't believe his words until she saw it with her own eyes. They stood before a magnificent door and he told her to stand aside. He placed his hand on the door and it suddenly opened to reveal something dark inside. The nun immediately fell down in fear, and Shiro grimaced at the horrific sight before him, saying that no matter how they lived, they were just sacrifices. Inside there were many human remains and a tree with roots growing up. The nun was still in shock with only one question. Why would the monk do this? Shiro approached the tree, explaining to her that the human remains she saw today were to nourish the tree, a great being. The nun was astonished when she realized that all of this was related to Anting, the god whom Shiro congratulated her for finally understanding the seriousness of the situation, saying that the god she had always worshipped was not as noble as she thought and was just a creature that devoured the flesh and souls of its believers. The nun began to panic. Her faith in her god started to waver. She couldn't imagine it being such a terrible thing. Shiro told her to face reality and that he would eliminate the god's emissaries. He used magic to protect himself from the attack, saying that he had slain countless monsters but had never killed a god. Demonic-looking creatures emerged from the flesh tree they consumed. Shiro told them to attack him and show him their true power. Back at the Lord's estate, Fang held his head in pain as he realized someone had broken into the chapel's basement and looked out the window at the moon. He seemed to have awakened from a slumber upon realizing this. The demons charged at Shiro as he prepared to unleash magic, speaking to no one about how he had once set foot in hell, and that's why he recognized the scent so well, and he realized that nothing could be done because the world was just as she saw it. He could hear the souls and the demons, their cries of resentment and all, but he had no choice but to kill them, even if they were the ones she said were missing. He wielded his weapon to attack the demons, and the nun remained caught between her faith and her spiritual values. She asked the goddess what all the things in front of her were. Near the castle hall, Carol sat on the ground in her armor, talking about how frustrated she was since Shiro left her behind. She looked at Nicole, who was bandaged but fast asleep, while wondering why she had to take on such a boring mission. She didn't want to stay watching over a little girl. She wanted to fight, to take action. Suddenly, she sensed an arrow flying towards her. She quickly dodged to the side before it could hit her. It seemed her desires had been heard and answered, and as she looked out the window, she saw a group of soldiers in armor with arrows in hand. She also realized that the house had been completely surrounded. Brighton sat on his tall horse. He ordered the soldiers to capture Nicole at all costs on Fang's orders, even if they found her in a dead state. Suddenly, all the soldiers took their positions, ready to shoot arrows, and Carol panicked, exclaiming how the difficulty level suddenly shot up from 0 to 100 very quickly. She wanted to act and fight, but didn't want to face too many enemies. Suddenly, 1,000 arrows flew towards her as she ran deeper into the room to save Nicole, who was also waking up. Carol mumbled under her breath that she had to make sure to treat her to a nice meal later. She darted out of the same window that the arrows were coming towards, shocking both the attacking soldiers and Nicole. Carol exclaimed that they should prepare for what was coming and stomped on one of the soldiers' faces to land safely. Carol realized how dire her situation was and decided that the two of them had to escape quickly. But before she could do that, Brighton charged at her on horseback, telling her to hand Nicole over to him and use her knight's power, telling her that he wouldn't let Carol escape unless she handed Nicole over to him, a large magical hand, shadowing over Carol as she used her power to create a magical barrier against his attack. She realized she didn't have enough energy and strength to maintain the barrier for long, and at that moment, the barrier suddenly shattered. Carol was thrown back towards a tree, while Nicole was thrown in the opposite direction. Carol quickly tried to regain her composure, recalling her promise to Shiro that she would protect Nicole at all costs. Brighton stepped towards Carol, grabbing her head and slamming her face down into the ground, back at the chapel. Shiro was fighting the monsters that emerged from the tree. He exclaimed that the monsters were all created by merging the souls of those who had met their end. Now, with the souls freed, he told them not to linger there and to rest in hell. The nun who had been silent all this time was rejecting that, saying that she didn't believe God would betray her and there must be something else behind all this. Shiro told her that they should go back right now because everything was over. He had friends waiting for him, and since he had completed his task, it was time for him to leave. A voice echoed in the room calling out Shiro's name. He said that since he's come this far, he shouldn't rush back. Shiro was surprised to hear that, quickly turning around to see a figure made of debris talking to him. He said there was something he wanted to ask Shiro. It eventually transformed into Fang, seemingly connected to all the events. Fang wished him a good evening, while Shiro just stood there, staring at the monster in front of him. When Fang saw that it wasn't enough to make him angry, he decided to call Shiro by his old name, Night King Kline. This certainly made Shiro furious as he threw his weapon towards Fang's figure, exposing it. Shiro didn't stop there and used the power of a knight to summon the flames of rage. Suddenly, the flames engulfed Fang. His figure praised the former Night King for attacking him without hesitation, but no matter how hard Shiro tried, the castle couldn't change the will of the god Antinous, who would soon awaken. Shiro told him he didn't have time to indulge the last words of a man about to meet his death, and walked out the door as the room filled with Fang's insane laughter as they left. The nun ran to Shiro, saying that the evidence was enough but she still couldn't fully believe it, and that god Tino was the deity she had worshipped all her life, and that was the god who had brought her peace and happiness. She couldn't easily betray her faith like that. Shiro told her that he could show her the god that he truly believed in and stepped up the stairs to leave the basement at the Holy Cross Church. People were panicking about a corpse that had lost its life right in the church. People wondered how something like this could happen in a church. It would be reckless for someone to kill in the church of god Antinous, and some feared the curse they would face because of this. Shiro stepped out with the nun following behind, and the guards noticed his presence, exclaiming that Shiro was the one who had ended that man's life under orders, not allowing him to advance any further. Even though he was strong, it didn't mean he could do whatever he wanted. Some even said he might be behind the missing people. This spread panic among the people at the church, accusing him of being the demon lord that Fang had mentioned, while some prayed to god Antinous to protect them, because only he could defeat that demon, which was Shiro. Shiro turned to Sister Mina and asked if she knew he had witnessed a scene like this before. He was falsely accused and burned alive while the crowd cheered for his end, but unfortunately, the truth is always ugly and hard to escape. And in the hands of the minority, he used the power of a knight to knock down the guards and throw them off balance. They regained their composure and looked up to see Shiro had jumped high like the statue of the god. Shiro threw a punch at the god's face, shouting to reveal his true form. The face of the statue collapsed and fell to the ground, and as the dust settled, everyone saw a swarm of bugs emerge from the statue. The bugs seemed to have 3 horns and a mass of flesh. It seemed to beat like a heart. A man from the nun also noticed it, and everyone began to feel weak at the sight before them. Shiro, he used his magic to cut open the mass of flesh, revealing nothing inside, and he wondered if the body truly had a say in changing itself. Back in Brighton, he told Carol that it was over with her. but Carol just smiled at him, saying she wasn't sure if everything was really finished. She smirked and used dust along with her stinky bottle as a smokescreen to escape his sight and destroy his sense of smell. Then she punched him in the gut, telling him to sleep it off, and all the other soldiers were also affected by the foul cloud. She ran to Nicole, who was sitting with her face buried in her knees. Nicole cried out not to catch her and to leave her alone. While doing so, she released a large amount of mana, and Harold stepped back as he realized. A massive amount of power emanated from Nicole, realizing how serious the situation was, and suddenly Nicole exploded. Releasing all the mana and pent-up power, it had a wide-range effect. Her strength froze the soldiers in place. It even froze Carol. Nicole cried in her hands, saying she didn't want to hurt anyone else. She seemed completely out of control and very fragile, but Carol was too frozen to do anything about it. Back in the castle hall, Nicole didn't realize that the gift fate had bestowed upon Jer would come at a price. So, when Nicole had once jumped and returned home one day to tell her mother about passing the talent project exam and being chosen as the Lord of Fang and the Lord of Castle Levi, her mother just smiled and congratulated her for her efforts. Nicole jumped into her mother's arms, who hugged her tightly, very happy for the fact that she would become stronger and protect more people. Nicole never thought she would be put in situations where she had to fight a giant bear 4 times her size, but she did. She defeated any enemies that came her way, even the public, also thinking she was their hero and savior. She enjoyed the praise and attention she received for her efforts and everything. Everything went smoothly, but then her fake happiness was short-lived and came to an end. She froze all the soldiers in the church, but even she was surprised to do so because she had no intention. Fane told her it was just a temporary side effect and that he would do anything to cure her quickly. Hearing his comforting words, she clung to him like a savior and thanked him profusely, lying on a stone slab as the real nightmare began. The people from the church, all dressed in experimental outfits, as she tried to ignore the alarm ringing in her head, saying that Fang had promised her she would recover as she endured everything. One of the men approached to apologize and told her that Fang had informed them her mission was over and her next mission would be to meet her end there and be swallowed by the god Antino. At that moment, all her hopes turned to ashes as she screamed and released a burst of power. All at once, pushing everyone back, she escaped from there. Thinking a lot about having to run away, she met Misius, who told her everything. It's over now, and Nicole just apologized to her. Misius saw a light in the sky and wondered what it could be, while Fang also noticed the light as he drank. And swirling it in his glass, he smiled upon seeing it, thrilled at the return of the ancient god after such a long time. Shiro ran toward it, thinking of Carol, and saw a magical gate in the middle of the wall, from which a well-dressed man appeared, looking at the light and speaking of the perfect timing of everything. Nicole's power spiraled out of control as the demon inside urged her to let her rage take over, for this world wasn't worth protecting. Nicole was emotionally broken thinking about the promise she made to her mother to be a good girl and that she wouldn't let anyone get hurt. Shiro, approaching the source of light, searching for Carol while shouting her name, and as he tried to get closer, his limbs began to freeze. He wondered what was happening, and Misius also moved to his side, telling him that it was the spinal fluid of the ancient god and it had completely permeated her body. So, those in the church and Fang were trying to turn her into a vessel for the resurrection of the Lord. Shiro asked Mesias why she was not present yesterday. Because she was the one who sent him to the church, she should have reported this matter to him. Misia frowned at him, saying she also had important business, and she had no obligation to report everything to him. Shiro asked if that was how she treated an ally. How was he supposed to cooperate with someone who had so many secrets? It seemed they were arguing. Misias told Shiro that he would understand one day, but that day was not now. And he shouldn't forget that she was the one who gave him life. Shiro told her not to joke with him because he would end her without hesitation, and she should keep showing him how to solve everything. Misias told him that Nicole's body was ready, but the power wasn't enough for the next step and the magical vessel was still sealed. If he could prevent the merging of body and vessel within a day, there would still be a chance to save Nicole. Shiro was tired of all the games as he moved forward. Nicole looked like a different person, as if someone had taken over her mind and body. When she said it felt great to be back in such an atmosphere, Shiro told anyone in Nicole's body that whatever it was, it wouldn't stay long, as he would make it return to where it came from. Nicole, her body taken over by the god Antino, mocked Shiro for standing in his way and called him a pathetic human. However, Shiro ignored the insults thrown at him by the god and instead used the power of the night to unleash a Demon King's slash. The slash was so large and fast that it directly headed toward Nicole, but the god Antino easily countered the attack as it entered her body without any issues. He even confidently called it a minor trick. He used his own ice magic, similar to Nicole's magic, to counter the attack. As the smoke from the collision of 2 attacks cleared, Shiro had vanished from his original position as he launched the strike. The god Antino looked around, trying to find Shiro, wondering where he had gone while Shiro was running through the field of frozen soldiers with a frozen Carol in his hands. He threw Carol into the air where Misias was asking her to catch her, and a stiff Carol fell into her hands. Shiro wondered if Carol would survive, and Messias told him that she seemed not to have disappeared and that she would do everything she could to bring Carol back to normal. Shiro warned her that at least she should save those he cared about, even as he started to lose faith in her as an ally, and Messias told her to take Carol to him and that he could trust that she would never do anything that truly put their lives at risk. Messias turned to run to a safer place so she could heal Carol. Shiro turned back to look at Nicole, who was now distorted as the dust settled and everything became clear. Nicole told him not to worry about others when he himself was in a concerning situation. Shiro scoffed, saying he didn't even look strong, and Shiro had taken the lives of fallen gods like him before Shiro went into a defensive stance, and Nicole said he knew which god Shiro was referring to. The curse was the god and told him not to compare him to some weakling. Shiro said he would be the one to judge whether he was weak like Kars or not, and now he had channeled his power into his weapon. Brighton, even while frozen, cursed Shiro because his consciousness was still alive. Suddenly, Brighton broke free from the ice and used the power of a knight to pin Shiro to the ground. Shiro was also surprised, wondering why Brighton was there at that moment. Brighton ignored his question and turned to the god in front of him, telling him to quickly meet Fang at the lobby castle, who had been waiting for his resurrection. Shiro shouted at Brighton, telling him to move, and Nicole realized the petty argument among humans and found it amusing. Brighton turned back to Nicole, saying everything had been done was for his resurrection because he was their future and hope. Nicole turned away, saying he would let humans sort out their trivial disputes and go look for Fang. Shiro countered his power and yelled at Nicole not to run away from him, but Brighton was not done with him and threw a punch at him that made Shiro fly backward because the punch was packed with the power of the knight. Brighton shouted at the god Antino to hurry up, and Nicole used her power to fly up and run to find Fang. Shiro's mask fell off from the impact as he said he had no intention of defeating Brighton, but he had not given him any choice, and now he would hit him. Brighton said he couldn't let Shiro do anything he wanted, like back at Lady's castle. Shiro smirked, suggesting they see who had the stronger punch between the two. At the Holy Cross Church, everyone wondered why there were things like deep inside the holy statue. He smirked as he suggested seeing who had the stronger punch between the two of them at the Holy Cross Church, while everyone wondered why there seemed to be something like maggots inside the statue. And what do they really believe in? Maybe they actually worship a monster from hell. Irina stepped through the gate to assess the situation. As she noticed some kind of maggots inside the statue and how they were feeding, one of the knights told her they had found something horrifying beneath the church. And they were just knights, unable to handle something that big by their own judgment, and requested her to look into it. Irina. She decided to head down to the church's basement to see what was going on, and maybe she would find some answers there. But when she arrived, she saw a tree and millions of human corpses. She approached while wondering what everything she was seeing really was, and found a stuffed bear. Perhaps belonging to some little girl, she realized that Shiro was right about Fang hiding all sorts of things in this town. People bowed their heads before God Antino, who had taken over Nicole's body, walking down the red carpet and enjoying the feeling of being worshipped. He noticed Fang standing in the window of the building, sipping coffee while waiting for the appearance of his beloved god, the Night Guild, clearing the way for God Antino. But he wondered why Fang didn't come to greet him but came alone, yet he decided to overlook it since Fang was the one who resurrected him. Fang welcomed him back to the world, saying that he had waited for this day for so long, he couldn't express it. The knights asked for permission to leave, and God Antino continued towards Fang, praising him and saying that he had the necessary qualities of a servant of the god, and that he acknowledged Fang. Fang smiled upon hearing his compliments, thanking his god in front of him. Nicholas stood before Fang with a frown, asking why Fang didn't kneel before his beloved god. Even the most loyal servants should kneel. Fang apologized, saying that there was something more important they should discuss, and God Antinous told him that he would overlook that, because he was loyal to him, and asked what the ice hammer would do since it was the magically imbued weapon he had used and only he could wield it. Fang unapologetically apologized, saying that it was no longer feasible. As Nicole looked increasingly confused, Fang explained that he didn't spend decades just studying the gods to become their slave. God Antinous was now even more skeptical and asked Fang what he meant by what he had said. Fang told him that he had found something interesting in the books he had read during his time. They spoke about the human nervous system and how to control the mind. He realized that controlling just one mind meant dominating all minds. The book in his hand fell as he used his weapon to shatter Nicole's mind. God Antino screamed in pain, howling and demanding to know what he had done. Fang said to him to kneel before his true master, and Nicole grasped his head, telling Fang not to be ridiculous because he was a god and he would never kneel before a human. Fang unleashed his power, causing the god Antinius to tremble. Fang forced him further, demanding he kneel, which made the god Antinius truly kneel. Fang stood over him, tall and proud, smiling as he asked if he knew why he was using the body of a little girl as his vessel to destroy a truly beautiful girl. All the beauty of the world crumbled with it. He told him he had injected her body with a liquid containing dark magic, so he could control Nicole, not just by the divine spinal fluid of Antinous, but also because of the dark magic liquid. Nicole's body became his personal prison, and the one who should kneel was the god before him. Outside the castle hall, Shiro and Brighton was still fighting. As Brighton flew back, Shiro approached him and grabbed his face again, saying that everything was over for Brighton. Brighton laughed in his face, saying the real fool was Shiro, but Shiro asked him if he understood. What kind of god is the god Antinos? He would end the lives of everyone. Brighton laughed, saying they all knew what gods were. Gods are just lies to deceive fools, and from the start, gods are vessels aimed at fools. They will never serve a god. Shiro, heading towards the queen's castle. While Brighton lay in the same position with spears embedded in his limbs, he laughed maniacally, asking Fang to show them the true purpose. Shiro wondered what was happening in their town because he couldn't understand why Fang and his people revived a god just to not serve him. Misius was using her magic to heal Carol, while Carol was dreaming in her subconscious about Nicole screaming and crying for her mother. As Misius was using her magic, she could also look into her subconscious and realize that the dream was about Carol's past. Shiro rushed into the queen's castle as he cursed Fang, and his people always trap others with schemes like Natsu. He would never forgive them and their foolishness. He flew over the rooftops, and even the knights realized that Shiro was running around in the night sky, throwing curses at him, wondering why they weren't doing anything. They shouted to each other not to let him escape and end his life because Fang had ordered it, and there would be a reward for them if they defeated him. In the sky, Shiro had no time for their tactics and used the knight's power to launch a powerful punch, striking the ground and sending everyone around flying in chaos. Naturally, he wasn't flying. Shiro was in a rage as he charged deep into the castle, stating he would never forgive Fang. In the grand library of Castle Levi beneath the ground, Fang held Nicole's lifeless body in his hands and took her deeper into the library. In the center of the library was a magic circle, and Fang brought Nicole's body there, speaking about how, after thousands of years, the gods controlled humanity. Now, humans could finally control the gods and take a new step. Around the magic circle were statues emitting a magical stone. A piece of the ice hammer requires them to answer his call and grant him ultimate power. The library door opens as Arena steps in to stop him. Arena is in an attack stance, looking determined to stop him, while Fang is completely unaware of what she has discovered. He asks her if something is wrong that she wants to report to him, and she says that she finally understands why and for what reasons he does these disgusting things. He had once told Arena that to be a friend of justice, one must unconditionally trust the god. So why is Fang doing all of this? Fang tells her that everything is over and Tino's god will resurrect, and they must have the power to fight against the god before that happens. Arena counters that to gain such power, he has sacrificed many innocent lives, and Fang cries out that he has no power. And they are in a battle. Those without power will ultimately be devoured, and there's no other way. Arena now sees a side of Fang she has never seen before, telling Arena that her sense of justice is admirable and that's why he cannot harm her, but she shouldn't interfere. Arena's hands tremble as she holds her weapon, as she apologizes to him and uses the knight's power against him, saying she has no choice but to intervene, and that is her true sense of justice. She unleashes her power, holy judgment, sending fireballs towards Fang, who counters, saying all her power is too weak. She has talent but is too naive. He says she is not his enemy and shouldn't stand in his way, so he doesn't have to do something they will both regret. Marina tells him she just needs to defeat him with the pride of the Brancolino family. She uses her slashing strike. And there's too much smoke to see what really happened, wondering if she has completed her mission. Fang calls her foolish as ice, covering all her flames that he used the god Antinos to create. Fang laughs and tells her there's no way she can defeat him now that he can control a god. Arena realizes their true positions and sees he is using the god's power to fight in a battle. Fang laughs maniacally. Now he says he has sealed the power in Nicole's body by his own hands, and now he is the only one in the world to have the control of a god. Suddenly, the god Antino awakens as Fang commands him to defeat Arena. The god quickly uses freezing power to push Arena back. Arena tries to catch her breath after the impact, while Fang is at the peak of emotion. Feeling no one can defeat him anymore, Arena coughs and starts to regain her strength to stand up. She looks in bad shape, and Fang tells her that all her efforts to stop him are in vain. There's no way a plan he has meticulously crafted over decades can be destroyed by someone like her, an ordinary human. He orders Nicole to use the power of God Antino to end Arena once and for all, and as the ice spears fly towards her, she wondered if this was really the end for her, if her justice would end there. At that moment, the ceiling suddenly collapsed and Fang was completely shocked by what was happening. Shiro flew in through the hole in the ceiling, telling Fang he had a gift for him and threw a punch at Fang, using the power of a knight, striking down to the ground, seemingly the reason the ceiling broke apart. Arena was stunned by what was unfolding before her eyes. As Shiro called her name, Asking if she remembered, he had told her that one day she would change her perspective on her entire situation. It turned out he was right about that. Arena sighed as she said he definitely knew beforehand about what Fang was quietly doing, and Shiro told her he didn't know the details, but he had seen all the dirty tricks in the world to recognize when something was off. He could smell them from miles away. Shiro moved forward, turning to Fang. He said it was time for Fang to pay for his sins. When someone does something wrong, there's a price to pay. That's just natural. Fang couldn't believe it, scoffing that he didn't need to pay. He was becoming a god. Why should he live by human standards? He ordered Nicole to attack Shiro, but the god Antino turned toward the ceiling and the hole in it. Fang asked what was wrong and why he suddenly stopped listening to him. Nicole laughed, and suddenly Fang took a punch to the face from Shiro. Fang got knocked back while groaning in pain. Nicole and Shiro faced each other with their backs, and Shiro called him trash. Definitely not someone a god could be. The god Antinoe thanked him for handling Fang for him. All the shards of ice swirled around Nicole as he exclaimed that he had finally controlled his new body, and as a reward, he would prepare a spot for Shiro in the new world he was creating. Shiro realized how bad the situation had become, and he couldn't let Nicole merge with the magic vessel. He jumped toward Nicole, trying to stop him somehow, but Nicole told him it was too late to stop him. Now he would unleash all his divine power. Suddenly, a colossal power surged from Nicole, pushing everything around away. Carol and Messiah saw a beam of light appear in the sky, as Nicole's body was taken over by God Antino, and Carol wondered if Shiro would finally fail. There was worry in her voice, as both looked up at the sky when suddenly a bizarre creature emerged from the ice, taller than anyone. He breathed in the air around him and savored the greatness of the world. At that moment, Fang had not completely vanished as he realized his plan was failing. He felt the need to do something so all his efforts wouldn't become meaningless. He grabbed his weapon to control his god, but before he could, the god spotted him first. 3 or even 4 times his size, he grabbed Fang in his hand, and Fang cried out for him to let him go because he was the master. The god laughed loudly, saying that Fang could no longer control him. Fang, feeling mentally crushed, said that he was the one who resurrected him and that he should at least show some gratitude. Antinous praised him for having a reasonable perspective and said he would end Fang's life as a reward for resurrecting him. Then he crushed Fang in his hands. And just like that, Fang failed, returning to the church where he once taught and preached about the disaster that would come upon them. And only the god could save them, but that very god was the one who had ended his life. The god Antinos revived, his body glowing. He began to destroy everything around him, crushing buildings underfoot and trampling over people. Everything was collapsing. The sky was dark, people were running and screaming beneath a heavy rock. Arena was trapped, unable to move and struggling to breathe. But she didn't want to give up. She told herself to keep going. She wouldn't lose. Suddenly, the rock shattered and she was pulled out. It was Shiro. Arena was overjoyed to see him. Shiro made a small joke and asked if she was still alive, saying she was lucky. Arena was injured but grateful. She asked if it was true that the god and Tinos had returned. Shiro nodded. Arena looked worried, wondering what this meant. Would it save them or be the end? In the distance, Tinos walked through the town, trampling houses and people as if they were nothing. One person cried for help, another shouted, asking what that monster was. Antinous watched people running and said that humans were just like they were 5,000 years ago. He bent down and observed them, and people grew fearful. A little girl cried and asked where her mother was. Antinous raised his hand and used an ice attack. Those near him froze and then their bodies shattered into pieces. Antinos laughed loudly, saying he would eat every human, collecting their souls and remarking that they tasted delicious. Arena looked at him and felt she had to stop him. She stood up and tried to run, but Shiro grabbed her hand. She looked at him and asked what he was doing. Shiro told her to stop, saying that if she ran like that, she would only get hurt, and it wouldn't help anyone. Harina yelled at him, asking what they should do. Just sit here and do nothing? Shiro glanced back at Antinous once more. And if anyone could help, it would be her. Arena looked at him in surprise, asking why he would help. He wasn't even from Lavi Castle. Shiro smiled and said maybe he was just curious. He picked up a weapon and ran toward Antinous. Arena called out to stop him, but he didn't listen, and she fell to the ground again. Arena was seriously injured. At that moment, someone appeared behind her. Arena turned around and saw a woman, who said her name was Missius. She said she was Shiro's companion and had come to deliver something important. Antinous continued to destroy the city, laughing and saying this was what he had been looking forward to the most. He was delighted to be back. Suddenly, something hit him in the face. It was a strong blow, and Tino stepped back, asking who had hit him. He got angry and then saw Shiro. Shiro smiled and said it was him. He asked if the hit was strong, and Tino's was shocked, asking how Shiro was still alive. Shiro said he wasn't ready to die yet. Tino said he let Shiro go once and it was stupid for Shiro to come back. He raised his hand to attack, saying if Shiro wanted to fight. He wouldn't hold back. He struck, but Shiro dodged to the side. Shiro said, "I'm right here," with a smile, and Tino laughed, saying he would play along while they fought. Shiro thought about Meshes, hoping she wouldn't rush in unaware of what was waiting. He wanted to protect her. He didn't want anyone else to get hurt. Even when facing a god, Shiro continued to fight for the arena, for Mesias, and for everyone else. Arena raised her weapon and aimed at Mesias. She looked serious and asked who Mesias was, and why she should believe anything she said. Mesias remained calm, saying it didn't matter who she was. What mattered was who Arena was, calling Arena the lady of the Branquino family. She explained that Shiro couldn't face Antino alone. She looked at Arena and said they would need her help. Arena felt confused, asking what Mesias meant by that. What could she do? Mesias turned to look at Antinius, saying even gods can be defeated, explaining that Antinous had just returned to his body and wasn't fully powerful yet. If they could find his weakness, they could win. Mesias then asked Arena what Michael looked like. Arena's face turned sad and she fell silent. The scene shifted to the fight between Shiro and Antinos. Antinos struck the ground with a powerful attack. Shiro jumped out of the way just in time. He knew that if he had been any slower, the attack would have hit him. Antinos laughed loudly, saying what Shiro did was meaningless. He attacked continuously, not giving Shiro any time to breathe or move. Shiro tried his best to block the attacks, but Antinous was too fast. He said Shiro shouldn't think he could escape. Shiro knew he had to take risks. He had no other choice. The scene shifted to where Antinius was revived. Priest Andrew was trembling, unable to believe what he saw. He said it couldn't be, that this wasn't possible. It couldn't be a god. He remembered Lord Fang saying the god would protect them. The people around him were angry. They started throwing eggs and shouting at him. They blamed him for everything. One person shouting that the priest lied to them, another saying it was his fault their homes were lost. Andrew tried to defend himself, saying this was definitely a nightmare. He insisted Lord Fang would never lie. The crowd grew louder, starting to call him a sinner. Andrew felt scared. Then someone approached him. It was Arena. Andrew thought she was coming to help, but no. She grabbed him and demanded to know where Nickel was. She asked where the lab was. Andrew trembled, saying he couldn't tell her. Lord Fang said it was a secret. He had to be loyal. Arena struck him, and Andrew fell to the ground, looking up confused. Arena yelled at him, saying Lord Fang was no longer alive, that Antinos had destroyed him, and everything he said was a lie. She told Andrew that everyone was deceived, not just him. She aimed her weapon at him and said she didn't have time for this, telling him to speak right now, or she would force him to tell the truth. Andrew was trembling, and finally, he gave in. He handed her a key and told her to go to room 101 at the end. There's a hidden door that leads to the arena lab. Grab the key and run. She reminded herself that Shiro just needed to try a little harder. Back to the battle, Shiro was doing his best to hold on. He dodged another attack and took a deep breath, charging toward Antinius. Antinius saw him and laughed. He asked if Shiro had given up and was running toward his end. He said that was fine with him, but Shiro had a plan. He believed there had to be a weakness if he could land a hit. He could make Antinous fall. He rushed behind Antinous, getting close to his legs and struck hard. Would Shiro's attack be effective? Shiro raised his hand. He swung his weapon with all his might and struck the powerful god Antinos. He was panting, waiting to see if his attack was enough to end the battle. For a moment, everything was silent. Then a loud laugh echoed from the clouds. The fight wasn't over yet. The sound of laughter felt almost like a praise. Shiro mocked him at the same time, standing firm, gripping his weapon tightly. He heard Antico say something back. The powerful god told him there was still much he needed to do before he could defeat him. The sky cleared, and Shiro saw Antico standing there, stunned to see the damage from the previous attack completely vanish. The god's wounds disappeared as if nothing had happened. Shiro stared in disbelief. He had used all his strength and put everything into that attack. But it still wasn't enough, and Tina was still standing strong. Shiro didn't know what to do next as he stood there, uncertain about what to do, when a voice suddenly called him. Shiro heard it but didn't stop. Instead, he charged forward, ready to attack again, but before he could make a move, something fell near him. It was a weapon, a new one. Shiro turned around and saw Meshes had thrown it to him. He picked it up and looked at it in surprise. He turned to her and asked where the weapon came from. Meshes told him it was a gift from Lady Arena, and she said Shiro could use it in this battle. Shiro looked at the weapon in his hand, feeling confused. Why would Lady Arena give him something so valuable? The scene shifted. It showed what had happened earlier. Lady Arena had given the weapon to Mesias before she left to find clues about where Nicole was. She had asked her to give it to Shiro. Mesias had asked if she was sure. The weapon was very important. It belonged to the Branquino family. Lady Arena said yes. She knew it was very special. It was the pride of her family. Normally, she would never give it away, but she trusted Shiro. She even admitted that she had once lost a challenge to him. Back to the present, Shiro gripped the weapon tightly. He could feel its power. Mishas told him something important. If he used his red liquid on the weapon, it would start obeying his commands. Shiro listened to her and looked down at the sword, thinking about what she had said. Then Antinous laughed loudly again. He said that no matter what trick he used, it won't help Shiro win either. The god then unleashed a massive wave of energy towards Shiro. It was dazzling and full of power. Mishas watched anxiously, thinking it might be too much, but Shiro stood firm. He didn't back down. He raised his weapon and declared that it was time to counterattack. He applied his red liquid to the Branquino weapon. Just as it touched the sword, a brilliant golden light radiated around. The weapon came alive with energy, and Tina watched in confusion. Something unexpected was happening. Mrs. explained what was going on. She said that Shiro belonged to a legendary race of demigods. Long ago, there was a race known as the Raging Lions. They had red liquid infused with fire power. That very power flowed within Shiro, and now it also flowed into the weapon. Shiro gripped the sword tightly. He looked at Antinous with a serious gaze. This was his chance. The weapon glowed brighter and brighter. Then, with this power, Shiro launched a massive wave of fire at the god. The fiery explosion hit Antinous directly. He couldn't stop in time. The flames from the weapon lit up the battlefield for the first time. Antinous staggered. The god appeared to be trembling. Shiro coughed. He was exhausted and weak, but still stood firm. He wondered if he had finally done it. Had this battle come to an end? The dust began to settle. Everything grew silent, but then, to Shiro's shock, Antinous stood up again. The god was still on his feet. Shiro couldn't believe his eyes. In the distance, the scene changed. Captain Arena was running through a crumbling hallway. She shouted to the nearby soldiers, telling them to leave quickly. This place was collapsing. It was no longer safe. But Arena didn't stop. She kept running, knowing she had to find the laboratory. As she ran, she encountered a strange door with a painting on it. She pushed it open and stepped into a hidden room. Inside, she saw many shelves filled with colorful jars and old books. This was the secret laboratory. She walked over and picked up a dusty piece of paper from the table. As she read it, her eyes widened. The paper stated that Michael Branquino could be used for experiments. It said she was chosen because she was part of the Branquino family. Arena clutched the piece of paper tightly. This news changed everything. She stared at the paper, shocked by what she had just discovered. Captain Arena stood still. Her eyes widened as she looked at the paper in her hand. She read the words over and over. They said that the Nickel Girl was part of the Branquino family. Arena felt shocked. She had never known this could actually be her family. She began to feel confused and pained. Everything. She thought she knew, now feeling like a lie. The scene shifted to Levy Castle. Lord Raiden was having a serious conversation with Lord Fang. Lord Fang's soldiers stood around the room. Lord Fang calmly stated that everything was over now. He told Lord Raiden that the honor of the Brancolino family meant nothing to him anymore. He said he could wipe out the entire family with just one word. Lord Fang stood up and looked directly into Lord Raiden's eyes. He made a deal. If Lord Raiden handed him Lady Arena, he won't harm the rest of the family. He said their alliance could still be strong. He asked what Lord Raiden would choose. Lord Raiden, after a moment of silence, he asked if Lord Fang really wanted to destroy the Branquino family just to bring an old god back. Lord Fang chuckled a bit and said yes. He said he had no other choice. Now he promised that if Lord Raiden joined him, he would still have a good life. Then he reminded that the castle was under siege. His soldiers were everywhere, but Lord Raiden refused to back down. He said he wouldn't surrender the lady Arena. He said you are the only one he truly cares about. After a short pause, he made another suggestion. He said he would replace her with Nicole. She also came from the Branquino family. He said maybe she would still be useful. Lord Fang laughed and teased him. Lord Raiden didn't like that. He stood up and looked serious, warning Lord Fang to stop pushing him. If they were negotiating, it had to be now, or there would be trouble. Lord Fang agreed. He said he still wanted the Brancolino family to stick with the Lavi Castle. They shook hands to seal the deal. Elder Fang said Elder Raiden was still the most respected one. The night in the castle, back in the laboratory, Arena dropped the paper, her hands trembling, unable to believe what she had just learned. Nicole, who had been kidnapped by Elder Fang, was supposed to replace her. She would be used as food for the god, which meant Nicole was her half-sister, both belonging to the Branquino family. Arena felt heavy inside. She clenched her fists. Did everyone know and hide it from her? Was she the only one who didn't know the truth? That thought made her furious. She slammed her hand on the table and shouted that they should never have touched her. She recalled when Levi Castle was destroyed, remembering the pain and betrayal. She couldn't forgive them. She ran out of the laboratory. She knew she had to act quickly to save Nicole and stop Elder Fang's plan before it was too late. In the distance, the battle between Shiro and the god Antinos continued. Antinos stood up again, completely unharmed. Shiro was still standing, but he was weak, out of energy. Mishis looked at him and asked if he could keep going. Shiro said things weren't going well. The sword he was using was powerful but consumed too much energy. Mishis told him that he wasn't even a member of the Branquino family. It was amazing that he could wield the sword. Shiro shook his head. saying that just being impressive wasn't enough when fighting a god. Antinos picked up a massive object and threw it at them, fast and full of power. The god laughed and said Shiro was just pretending to be a hero. He said humans could never defeat gods. Shiro turned to Mischius, asking if there was any other way. He said she always talked about destiny. Maybe destiny would help them now. Mischius said destiny doesn't provide answers. It only shows many different paths. Shiro started to think about what other paths there were before they could act. A voice called from afar. It was Captain Arena. She jumped in and unleashed a powerful attack, calling it **** Knight's Power, Divine Judgment ****. The attack hit Antino hard, knocking him to the ground. She landed beside Shiro, exhausted but still standing tall. She told Shiro he was right. There was no peace, no love, and no justice unless humans created it themselves. She said Old Fang had deceived her for a long time. Even though she was angry with this world, she still wanted to protect it in her own way. She extended her hand, inviting Shiro to fight alongside her. She wanted to stop the god's plan. Shiro smiled, saying she had grown a lot. He took her hand and stood by her side, ready to fight together. Antinos stood up again. He wasn't done yet. Harina told Shiro not to worry, saying the Branquino family always overcame challenges. Shiro hoped that was true. He told her to show him the legendary strength of the Branquino family. The god Antinos stood firm. Staring at Arena and Shiro, the atmosphere felt heavy, a power radiating around them. Arena turned to Shiro and asked him to hand her a weapon. He gave it to her, saying it always felt sluggish in his hands. He said he couldn't use it. Arena gripped the weapon tightly with both hands. She looked down at it, saying this wasn't an ordinary sword. It was a holy weapon made from the deep power of her family. She said someone outside the Branquino family, like Shiro, could never unleash its full potential. Only someone with Branquino blood could truly wield its power. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She called upon her ancestors, begging them for strength, asking for the power to fight even against the strongest god. Shiro quietly observed, feeling the atmosphere change. Suddenly, energy surrounded Arena, swirling around her like a strong wind, the light growing brighter and brighter. Mischius looked on in surprise. She said this was the true power of the Brand Queen, a weapon that only shone like this when someone from the family used it. That moment had come. Arena now glowed with power, standing tall and proud, her eyes filled with fire, facing Antinous without fear. Shiro looked at her, feeling amazed. Arena said she would stop Antinius and save Nickel at all costs. Then she turned to Shiro and asked if he would help her. Shiro smiled, saying he didn't know her full plan, but he would follow her anyway. Antinous watched them, saying their little chat was over. He attacked swiftly with tremendous power, but Arena and Shiro moved quickly, jumping out just in time. They soared into the air, ready to fight while flying. Arena asked Shiro to keep Antinous busy. Shiro nodded, saying he could do that. He charged at the god and swung his weapon, but couldn't do anything. Antinous laughs and says it's pointless. He counters Shiro. The powerful strike knocks Shiro to the ground. He's in pain and struggling to breathe. His body is heavily injured. He tries to stand up but can't move. Antinous steps closer, lifts his foot, and says that all this effort is meaningless. He says that humans cannot defeat the gods, but far behind, Ariana doesn't give up. She raises her glowing sword high above her head and loudly declares in the name of the Brancolino clan. She will defeat Antinius. Then she charges forward with all her strength, her sword slicing through the god's body repeatedly as she attacks the overconfident Antinius. Now he looks shocked. He didn't expect this power to come from a human. Arena continues to attack, her sword stabbing into his chest repeatedly, marks and holes appearing on the god's body. Each hit weakens his strength even more. Then Arena screams, calling out for Nickel, her voice echoing across the battlefield. She tells Nickel she's here, that she came to help. Deep inside the god's body, where it's dark, Nickel is trapped. She can't move. But she hears something, a voice, initially soft but then growing louder. It's Arena's voice. Nickel's eyes slowly open as she hears her name being called. She hears the voice of her half-sister calling her. Outside, Arena stands firm, her sword glowing with light, her heart full of hope. She knows Nickel is inside Antinous, and she will save her. The god Antinius isn't defeated yet, but for the first time, he feels a tremor. He's uncertain and afraid. Arena rushes in and attacks the god Antinius right in the chest with all her might, her glowing sword shining as it cuts through. She calls out for Nickel, pleading for her to respond. Antinous screams in pain, his massive body shaking from the attack. Shiro watches in shock. He didn't think this would happen. Something is changing. Mischius looks calm. She turns to Shiro and explains what's happening. She says the sword is special. It only manifests all its power when wielded by someone from the Branquino clan. That's why it reacts this way. Shiro's eyes widen. He suddenly understands. Nickel must also be from the Branquino clan. He asks what the connection between Nickel and Arena is. Are they sisters? Arena keeps calling out for Nickel. Her voice is full of hope. She believes Nickel is still somewhere deep inside the god. Nickel hears something, a voice. He's calling her name, and Antinous is furious, saying that Irina is too stubborn. He swings his hand and attacks her with great force. Irina dodges the first strike, still calling for nickel, but the next attack comes too fast, hitting her hard. She's thrown into the air and crashes down, dust flying everywhere. Irina lies still, injured and barely able to move, while Shiro sees her fall. His heart sinks. He knows she can't go on alone. Her sword, though powerful, isn't enough to defeat a god. Shiro tries to stand, but his body won't move. He cries out in pain. Misius runs to his side, her hands glowing as she begins to heal him. She tells him to stay still. His injuries are serious if he tries to fight now. He could hinder Irina instead of helping. Shiro nods slowly, lying still but whispering for Irina to hang in there. Irina kneels down. Her breath is heavy, and Tina stares at her. He says humans are so foolish. They shattered Nickel into pieces, and now they want to save her. He mocks them about Nickel. Chose to sleep because she was angry. Angry at the world, angry like he is. That's why she accepted his soul. Then, Antinous raises a brilliant ice hammer high into the sky, cold winds swirling around, the ground freezing. Shiro and Irina stare in fear. The hammer glows brighter, and Tino shouts that this is the end, claiming he will crush the world with one blow. He slams the hammer down onto the ground, the earth trembles, a loud explosion echoes through the air, and Irina is thrown high into the sky. She falls again, her body weak, eyes filled with tears. She wonders if this is really the end, if everything she's fought for is gone, just before she could fall again. Someone catches her. It's Shiro. Despite being injured, he holds her tightly, telling her not to give up, not now. Irina looks at him. Her eyes are full of sadness as she asks what they can do now. Nothing seems effective. Antinous is too strong. Shiro looks at the glowing sword in her hand. He says fighting isn't enough, not anymore. Now that Antinous has the ice hammer, they can't win, just with strength. They need to try something different. Shiro asks Irina for the sword. He wants to use it to awaken Nickel. Irina looks at him, unsure, asking if he can really do it. Shiro nods. He says both he and Nickel are hurt by the world. They've both been left behind. Maybe that's why he's the one who can reach her now. Missia stands beside them, telling Shiro that she has used all her strength to heal him. This is his last chance. There won't be another. Shiro takes the sword from Irina, gripping it tightly. This isn't just a battle against a god, but the last chance to save Nicole. The last chance to bring her back has begun. Everything is getting really tense. Irina slowly hands over her glowing weapon Branchino to Shiro. Immediately, it's clear that something big is about to happen. Shiro grasps the sword fearlessly and steps forward. Irina watches him closely, feeling anxious. She asked him what he planned to do, but Shiro didn't turn back. He kept walking, only saying that he knew what it felt like to no longer be alive. He said he had seen how terrifying hell was, and that was when everything suddenly became clear to Irina. She remembered something, a name, someone from the past, and she asked if Shiro was really Kline. Hearing that, Shiro finally stopped, turned around, and smiled a little, surprised that someone remembered who he really was. It had been 3 years since anyone called him that. Irina was shocked. She asked if he was the knight who had been burned alive. She recalled that Princess Natsu had ordered his trial for treason, and she couldn't believe the person before her was still alive. Shiro simply said that he had returned from hell, stating that anyone who had witnessed what he saw there would know just how cruel this world is. And that's exactly why he would bring the gods and Tino down. Then something massive happened. Shiro knelt down and placed his hands on the ground. The earth around him began to glow. He started to gather power, and he called out the name of a special skill. He called it *** Knight's Power, Frenzied Phantom ***. He spoke to the souls beneath the earth, the souls of those filled with regret, asking them to lend him their strength, so that he could end this curse once and for all. Irina stepped back, unsure of what to say. She saw his body start to change. His energy was increasing. She realized the truth. This was not an ordinary knight. This was the former *** Knight King ***. Far above, Nicias hovered in the sky. She observed everything with a serious gaze, stating that Shiro had awakened since his return from hell, but there was a price to pay. She said that those who wield such soul power often don't live long, wondering if Shiro was truly ready to risk his life again. But Shiro remained calm, his expression very serious. He said that this world had been destroyed, and that was why he had to fight. He declared he would save Nico and would slay the gods and Tinos with his own hands. And he charged forward without waiting. Irina knelt down, overwhelmed, almost unable to believe what she was seeing, while Tino saw Shiro coming and laughed, calling him a fool. He said Shiro had been defeated once and was still fighting. Shiro continued on, stating that when someone is betrayed by the world, it only fuels their determination to keep going. Even without hope, they fight harder. He recalled a moment from the past when Princess Natsu had asked him if he was ready to don the knight's armor. She had said that it meant sacrificing one's entire life to protect others, asking if he was truly willing to do that. But now she remembered the truth. She was the one who betrayed him. She was the one who had poisoned him. Currently, Antinous raised his massive ice hammer and swung it down to crush him, but Shiro roared that he would not fall. Not until he took Princess Natsu down, he blocked the hammer, leaving Antinous shocked, while Shiro shouted at him not to underestimate him. Antino said he hasn't even used his full power yet, but just then Shiro crushed the ice hammer, shattering it with immense strength. The god couldn't believe it. He wondered what Shiro was trying to do, but he still thought it was pointless. Shiro wasn't done yet. He closed his eyes for a moment and then apologized. He apologized to the Branquino family, knowing he wasn't one of them, but he still asked them to grant him strength. Arena was shocked, sensing something. The power from her blood was flowing into Shiro, her holy weapon responding to him. Then came the final attack as Shiro charged straight at the god. Antinous, furious, charged at him too. Both ran at full speed, and in that moment, Shiro sliced through Antinous. Once again, his weapon moved swiftly with a lethal blow, cutting deep into the divine being, and as he attacked, he called out Nicole's name with all his heart. He begged her to answer him. Shiro stood tall and called Nicole's name again, his voice strong and full of emotion. He asked her to listen to him. Deep in the darkness, Nicole heard something. It was a voice she recognized, gentle and kind. Slowly, her eyes began to open. Shiro continued speaking, telling her that he understood, saying she had endured a lot of pain. He knew her heart had suffered, but he also said it wasn't too late. There was still hope, still time for her to come back. He told her that those who had hurt her were gone now. They couldn't hurt her anymore. He reminded her that those who truly cared for her still loved her deeply. He pleaded with her not to give up. Calling her name once more, his voice trembling with emotion, tears began to fall from Nicole's eyes as she tried to move. She struggled to escape the darkness that had held her for too long, but her heart felt heavy. She told herself maybe the world didn't need her anymore. She was afraid of hurting someone again. She thought it might be better to hide forever, that way no one would hate her anymore. Outside, Shiro continued to fight, using every last bit of strength he had. He attacked Antinous again and again, shouting that he would save Nicole at all costs. Inside the divine body, Nicole heard him once more. Her tears fell faster as she wondered one question. Was there really someone trying so hard to save her? And Antinous became furious, telling Shiro to stop, launching a powerful ice attack. Ice wrapped around Shiro and he screamed in pain, but Shiro refused to give up. He broke through the ice and reached out once again. He called out Nicole's name, asking if she could hear him. Nicole cried. She was still uncertain but began to believe, wondering if Shiro was sincere. The god attacked again. The attack sent Shiro crashing to the ground. He coughed and tried to get up, slowly pushing himself up despite his body aching all over. He said he wasn't finished. He could still stand firm. He could still fight. Antinous became truly enraged, beating Shiro time and again, each blow powerful. Shiro fell down but got back up each time. The god shouted that no matter how hard Shiro tried, nothing would change. He said Nicole would never come back. He said that humans are the ones who hurt Nicole from the very beginning. He told Shiro that sweet words would never reach her. Only he, the god Antinous, could keep her safe. But Arena was watching from nearby. She saw what was happening. She understood that Shiro just needed a little more time. A little more time to reach Nicole. She held the weapon tightly and declared that this was her home, she would protect it, and she said she was no longer afraid. With brave steps, Arena charged at the god. Shiro lay on the ground, his body broken, and he felt this could truly be the end. He struggled to speak, but managed to say that Antinous would never understand. Yes, Shiro had been betrayed. Yes, he knew the pain, but even after all that, he still wanted to live, still wanted to find happiness, and he believed that Nicole deserved to find it too. Nicole clearly heard what he said. It touched her heart. She began to believe in them. She started to remember. She remembered Shiro, remembered Mishas and Arena. She remembered her older sister Carol and then thought of her mother. Her mother had told her something important, to never forget to seek happiness. Nicole started crying again, but these were not tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of strength. She declared that she would not give up anymore. With a loud scream, Nicole shattered. Freeing herself from the ice that held her, a brilliant light bursts from deep within and Tinos feels something strange. He looks at his chest. A strange light appears. Something's not right. Shiro sees this as his chance. He charges forward with all his remaining strength, accelerating. Then, with all his might, he throws the Branquino weapon into the air. The sword flies high. Arena jumps up and reaches out. She catches the sword and grips it tightly. She closes her eyes and calls upon her ancestors, pleading for their help. She asks for the strength to end this. She begs for the power to stop the great disaster. She wants peace to return with the fire in her heart. Arena charges forward. She swings the sword and attacks Antinous with all the strength of the Branquino clan. Antinous can't believe what's happening. He screams that he has just restored his body. He says it can't end like this, but it truly is. With one last scream, the mighty god Antinous falls. His body disintegrates. The battle is over. Mishis watches with a calm gaze. She feels relieved. Even the ancient god has departed. Now peace seems to have returned to the world. Those who fought to the end can finally rest, but will they really? The god Antinius, now weak and shattered, speaks again, his voice trembling. He tells them to stop. His icy body begins to crack and disintegrate. The fragments fall to the ground as if melting. At the same time, Nicole starts falling from the sky, eyes closed, thinking this is the end for her. But just before she hits the ground, Irina rushes over and catches her. They land safely on the ground. Nicole opens her eyes in surprise. Marina looks at her and offers a gentle smile, telling Nicole that everything is okay now. She says she won't let anyone hurt her again. Not far away, Mishius runs to Shiro. He's badly injured and lying on the ground in pain. Mishius sits beside him and says it's cruel for someone who has faced an end once to have to risk their life again like this. Shiro smiles through the pain. He says there's no other way. He made his choice. Lady gently begins to heal him with magic. Her hand glows as she heals him. She tells him that this time it will be okay. Shiro smiles and laughs heartily. He says that if she hadn't saved him the first time, he would have already been in hell. In the distance, Irina and Nicole's sister, Carol, watch everything. She is amazed that they actually defeated a god like Antinius, but just before she can step forward, something strange happens. A strange weapon appears and wraps around her, holding her in place so she can't move. Carol quickly turns around and sees someone standing behind her. He was a tall man with an air of mystery. His presence was incredibly strong. Carol squinted and asked who he was, and then something changed on her face. She suddenly recognized him. The man looked at her and said it had been a long time since they last met. In the battlefield arena, he glanced around. Something felt strange. She wondered if the god had really vanished, if it was truly over. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed everywhere, and everyone turned back. The shattered ice pieces on the ground began to pull together on their own. Everyone looked on in shock, and Antinos stood up. His body reformed once again, his voice filled with rage as he shouted that he would not accept defeat. Everyone froze, thinking the battle was over. But not yet. Antinos created a weapon in his hand. He laughed and said that after crawling out of hell, he refused to lose so easily. Irina gripped her sword, but her hands were trembling. She said her strength was depleted, she had nothing left. But before Antinos could attack, something wrapped around him. It was the strange weapon that had confined Carol. The god was suddenly locked in place. He struggled, but couldn't move. Antinos knew exactly to whom this weapon belonged. He looked toward the man standing nearby. It was him. Carol remained trapped, staring at the man in shock. His power was evident. He had successfully confined the god without breaking a sweat. Antinos shouted the name Risusu. He demanded to know how Risusu, a human, was still alive after 5,000 years. Risusu calmly looked at Antinos. He said it was over now. The old gods had their time, their era was over, and the world must move forward. He stated that the future belonged to something new. Then, without a real battle, Risusu ended Antinos immediately. The god was finally defeated. His body began to fade away as he disappeared. He exhaled a final laugh, telling Reissue that although he had won, he was still just a human. He called Reissue foolish for thinking that dreams could become reality just by defeating a god. He said hope was useless, then Antinos vanished forever. The battlefield became silent, no one spoke a word. Shiro slowly sat up, still in pain. He said that Risusu always appeared and seized the best moments for himself. Irina watched Risusu carefully. She felt a strange pressure in the air. There was something about him that was off. She couldn't fully relax. Racist still held Carol captive in his strange weapon. He looked at everyone calmly, saying there was no need to be afraid. He had no plans to fight them. He said he respected them, the brave ones who stood against a god and survived. He said they had done something extraordinary, then explained why he was here. He said he wanted to negotiate. It was a simple deal. He wanted to trade Carol for Nicole. Everyone froze in place. Carol looked down, quietly saying sorry. She told them she was sorry for being a burden once again. A brief moment of peace has been shattered, and a new challenge awaits. Raisushi stands tall, still holding Carol tightly with his strange weapon. His voice is calm as he presents a deal. He says it's a simple exchange, trading Nicole for Carol. He asks if they are willing to accept. Harina steps up immediately, not hesitating. She raises her voice and says no. She rejects the deal, stating she promised Nicole. A promise that no one would harm her again. Nicole has suffered too much. From now on, Irina says she will protect Nicole no matter what happens. Reisusu looks at her seriously, telling Irina that this isn't a fairy tale. This isn't a discussion. He says she has no power left. She can barely stand. He adds that if he truly wanted to, he could forcefully take Nicole. That's the only reason. His suggestion of a deal is just to give them a bit of dignity, to make them feel like they have a choice. Yet Irina still holds her weapon and stands tall with strength. She says Shane would actually agree to such a deal. She promised Nicole a chance to live a happy life. That's her promise. And she won't break it, not even for a moment. She says she won't do anything shameful like that. Shiro watches from the ground. He knows what he has to do. He turns to Mishis and asks her to help him stand up. Mishis looks at him with concern. She tells him he's badly injured and shouldn't move, but Shiro doesn't listen and gets up anyway. He says if they look weak now, that just makes Raizu stronger than them. With effort, Shiro stands up, his breath heavy. Raizu looks at him in surprise. He didn't think Shiro could still stand. Shiro tells him not to underestimate him. Even like this, he's still strong. Strong enough to take down someone like Reisu if necessary. Messias watches silently. She knows Shiro is pushing himself too hard, but she understands. Why are you doing this? Shiro steps forward. He looks straight at Reisu and tells him to fight him instead of anyone else. He says if Reisu wants someone to face off with, he will be that person. Reisu smiles lightly, saying this is more interesting than he expected. He says he didn't see Shiro clearly before, but now he does. This kind of courage is what he anticipated. From the old Night King, who has been mentioned in ancient tales, Reisu then loosens his weapon and releases Carol. She falls to the ground, free once again. Reisu says he will set this aside temporarily just for Shiro. He turns to the group and gives them a warning. He says they should take good care of Nicole. He tells them that Nicole still has remnants of the ice hammer inside her if she ever loses control. No one will be able to stop her. Shiro looks at him, his gaze serious. He says the best way to take care of Nicole is if no one like Reisu exists. Reisu becomes silent for a moment. He looks at Shiro seriously. He says that maybe one day Shiro will understand. Only a few people in the world know what Reisu is going through. Shiro responded with anger, saying he hoped he would never understand. Raisusho nodded, saying that was fair, then added that they would meet again someday. And when they meet again, hopefully, it will be in a more peaceful way. He raised his hand and opened a glowing portal in the sky without saying anything else. Raisusho stepped into it and vanished as the portal disappeared behind him, Shiro's power also fading away. He fell to the ground, body aching, knowing he had gone too far. Arena rushed to his side, checking if Raisusho had truly vanished. Carol also approached Shiro. She knelt beside him, saying he scared her. She looked at his wounds with concern, asking if he was okay. Shiro gave a small smile, saying it wasn't time yet. He said he wasn't ready to face the end. At that moment, Nicole slowly woke up, eyes wide open. She recalled the time she was imprisoned inside the god, her body shaking, her hands trembling. She began to cry, asking if she had destroyed the town, her voice filled with fear. She asked Arena if she had done anything terrible, something she couldn't fix. Arena sat beside her, gently placing her hand on Nicole's head and smiling warmly. She told her that nothing like that happened, saying Nicole hadn't destroyed anything. In fact, Nicole was the hero who saved Lava Castle. Nicole looked up, surprised, asking if that was really true, if she had truly saved the town. Arena nodded and said yes. She thanked her, saying that everyone was here now because she had helped them. Hearing those words, Nicole's tears fell again, but this time not tears of fear, but tears of relief. For the first time in a long time, Michael felt truly safe. 3 days later, the town began to rebuild. Carol ran to her room with food in hand. Messias sat beside Shiro, who looked like he was about to give up on existence. Shiro's skin and bones were breaking and healing under Messias's magic. He was really happy to see Carol and thanked her for bringing him food every day. Carol told him not to be so polite with her. After all, they were very close friends. Carol fed Shiro, who looked like he hadn't eaten in days. Carol also offered food to Messias, but she declined as she had already eaten. Carol looked at the food sadly, then decided to eat it all by herself. Otherwise, it would go to waste. Shiro sat up and called her a greedy girl, someone who could eat anything in front of her. Messias laughed at the scene. Youth was truly refreshing. When she was younger, she used to eat even more. Shiro asked about Arena, who had gone to the cemetery to honor her ancestors. Shiro made a strange face upon hearing this news. At the Brancino family cemetery, Arena wore a beautiful white dress as she laid flowers on her father's grave. She spoke to the grave, telling her father that she had protected Levi Castle with all her strength, hoping she had lived up to his expectations. There was one small thing she couldn't understand. She asked the grave why her father had made a deal with Fang. Because of Fang, so many people had to sacrifice their lives. All of that could have been avoided. She spoke to the grave, asking for answers that it could not provide. Her father was an honest man from very early on, but he had traded with Fang and even offered Nicole to him. Her eyes started to well up as she spoke to the grave, not understanding why her father would do such things. A voice called Arena. Her father's butler sitting beside her explained her father's actions. It seemed she had misunderstood her father's intentions, handing Arena a diary and telling her there were things that couldn't be explained. Arena took the diary and asked what it was. The diary was written by her deceased father and he wanted Arena to read it. She asked the butler if he knew about Nicole. The butler coldly replied that he was just a butler. He did as her father instructed. Arena stood up and promised to read the diary. The butler pleaded with her to believe in her father. He loved her very much, so she shouldn't hate him. Arena wanted to believe in her father, but her judgment would wait until she finished reading the diary. Arena left the cemetery, wondering why her father had never told her anything about this. Stuffing her face in as if it were the last piece she would ever eat, Shiro asked Messias when he would fully recover. Messias told him 2 days while she was reading. Shiro thought he would die of boredom if he sat still for another 2 days. Carol advised him that the town wasn't bad or boring. Whenever she wanted to do something, she played hide and seek with the kids, but they never found her. Shiro asked Messias what their next step would be now that the people at Lavi Castle were free. They would head to Furai Castle from now on. Carol repeated the name of Shiro Castle, asking if something was wrong, revealing that Furai Castle was her home. At night, Arena sat at her desk with a book in front of her. She wondered how many secrets her father had hidden from her, eager to read the book he left behind, like someone without a life, opening Pokemon cards to make a living. The story rewinds to when the new Lord of Lavi Castle was chosen, with 3 men kneeling before the announcer of the next Lord. The men thought about themselves, waiting to be chosen. Leon Canole was selected as the new Lord, and he jumped up in honor of being chosen. One of the 3 looked at Leon with disdain, wondering why he wasn't chosen, while Leon was. Leon received the scroll from the announcer and promised to lead Lavi Castle to victory. The angry man and a young Fang exchanged glances. Fang comforted the angry man, saying what was rightfully his would never be taken away. Later, at a tavern, the angry man complained to everyone about not being chosen, citing his lineage and background. Everyone said he was the perfect candidate for the job. Fang comforted the angry man, Leighton, and told him the world was unfair. He poured more drinks for Leighton, saying if someone like him couldn't become Lord, it was a loss for Lavi Castle. To make Leighton feel better, Fang even said that the Queen had no eye for talent. They both listened as if they had been hurt. After his high school crush rejected him, Leighton was angrier about Leon, who once worked under him, now being his superior. He asked Fang what to do about the situation. Fang handed him a knife and told him to be resilient. He urged Leighton to show his true self to everyone at Lavi Castle. At night, the men encouraged each other. They finally defeated the spider with Leon's help. They shouted his name loudly. Leon stood with a sword in hand, Leighton kneeling beside him, asking if he was okay. A lord shouldn't pressure himself too much. He is the future of Lavi Castle. Leon knew that everyone was fighting alongside him. He wouldn't die so easily. The soldiers kept shouting Leon's name. Leon stood up and invited Leighton into his tent. They would chat and catch up since it had been a while since they talked. Leighton agreed to Leon's proposal with a big smile. Inside Leon's tent, the mouse quietly stabbed Leon with a fatal blow. Leon looked at Leighton with wide eyes, unable to believe that Leighton had betrayed him. Leighton cursed Leon and his status, declaring now the rules belonged to him. Leon reminded Leighton that the Queen would never forgive him for his treachery. Leighton laughed like a madman. He told Leon that the one who decides the traitor is the one who survives. The knights standing guard outside the tent wondered if a battle was taking place inside. Leighton stepped out and flaunted Leon's head to the knights. He boasted that he had eliminated Leon, the traitor. He wouldn't accuse Leon's friends of treachery. The knights sprang into action. There was no way Leon was the traitor. The soldiers charged at Leighton, ready to deal with him for harming their leader. Before they could do anything, the masked knights eliminated those who stood with Leon. The masked knights bowed to Leighton, accepting him as a hero. Fang stepped into the scene and congratulated Leighton. Leighton told him to inform Princess Natsu about Leon and his acts of betrayal. Temporarily, he would take over Lavi Castle until a new lord was appointed. The people cheered for Leighton as he took over Lavi Castle. Arena's father remarked that even he thought everything was going too smoothly, but the rat was truly lurking in the shadows. Even then, in the church, Fang attacked Leighton with his holy weapon. Leighton held his head and asked Fang what he had done. Fang revealed that this was just a bit of magic he cast to ensure Leighton would obey him in all circumstances. His mind now belonged to Fang. Fang disclosed that Leighton's body had been filled with a special concoction that he himself had created. No wonder he had treated Leighton to so many drinks. From now on, Leighton was Fang's servant. Fang and Leighton knelt before the announcer as he chose the next lord. Fang was selected for his dirty tactics, and he promised to keep Lavi Castle safe. Leighton sat beside Fang as he accepted everything, feeling that all of this was a huge nightmare for him.